Hello and welcome to Neville Longbottom and the Rewind Reviews. Today we're looking at the Neville Longbottom series. We'll be looking at the 7th film of the franchise, which gives a lot of screen time to side character Harry Potter. But of course Neville does indeed save the day at the end, Chris. How are we feeling about Neville Longbottom and the Deathly Hallows Part 2?
Let's go right in, baby, because this is consistently been. I knew this was coming. I know it's the end, but fuck it. Let's go right in there. This has consistently been like, if you were to say to me even before this was, a thought in our heads, give me a take of Dan's on the Harry Potter movies, I'd have said he thinks it looks like Neville killed Voldemort. He's right.
No, there's no looks like. That's what happens.
Yeah,
I've watched it, and I've watched it, and I've rewatched it for this podcast, and there is literally no other conclusion you can come to.
You know what I love? Why bother with the Elder Wand stuff if you're going to have the spell disappear and then the wand fly through the air? Like, what fucking difference does... There's no rebounding. There's no... He dies by his own sword because Harry catches the wand and the curse rebounds. The curse disappears and then the wand goes to Harry, who just randomly catches it.
What I've put in my notes is Harry doesn't need to be there. He's basically just there to catch a wand, but it doesn't matter because Voldemort was 10 seconds from disintegrating anyway.
I mean, there's a lot, but let's start there because...
Well, we should probably do that thing of, hey guys, podcast about Harry Potter movies. We're doing them all one by one. We started with Philosopher's Stone, and that had somewhat of an intro. We talked about our history with the franchise, gave some context for our own personal level of fandom with these things, and our own feelings on the movies, just in general, prior to sitting down to re-review them. Here we are now re-reviewing them. We're 8 in, and I'm done. These fucking movies suck. So I'm just diving in with my complaints on this one. No faffing about, but I had to do that just so if you want the fluffy intro and to be eased in to the aggression and anger that is built up over the last 7 podcasts, feel free to go back to Philosopher's Stone, where we're actually reasonably chipper about the whole thing. And I think I even say it's only going to go downhill from here in that podcast. So, but yes, now with that out of the way, let's talk about this ending. Well, I mean, let's get I've got a lot to say on this, but let's get your thoughts first, Chris, because I'm gonna rant, and I feel like I'll rant less if you do a bit of talking first, because you'll cover some of it.
Well, it's mainly that. Well, look, okay, I don't like the disintegrating. I don't like the fact that it's not a body that hits the floor. We've had bodies that hit the floor. Bellatrix and Voldemort should both die like Cedric died. Like Dumbledore died. Dumbledore had a body as well. Like, this notion that the films have of if you're a bad guy, you completely burst into pieces is so strange to me, and in my opinion also a little bit ambiguous, because I'm watching the films going, well, before he lost his body but he was still around, and he's exploded, and also just the power. Julie Walters is really, I know I'm talking about Bellatrix now, but Julie Walters is really, her delivery of "not my daughter, you bitch" is brilliant. I don't like the smile. I don't like the smile at the end. That is a weird choice for someone who's just lost their son and is, simply trying to avoid the pain of losing another child. But the actual delivery of the line, the iconic line, "not my daughter, you bitch," is great. But I just don't. I think there's real power. I think there is both power in hearing Mrs. Weasley say the unforgivable curse and having Bellatrix die that way, and there's real power in. I just don't understand why. So for those that don't know, in the books, Pushes Up Glasses, the genius of it is, the Elder Wand was Dumbledore's wand, was actually taken over in power by Draco Malfoy, because Draco disarmed Dumbledore while he had the Elder Wand, which meant Draco was the master of the Elder Wand, which means when Harry then disarms Draco, Harry is the master of the Elder Wand. So, what Harry does is call Expelliarmus, which is a spell he's been criticised throughout the book as using too much, and he yells Expelliarmus, and as Voldemort has tried to kill Harry, the wand goes over to Harry, the wand's true master, and Voldemort's own curse rebounds and kills him. It is incredibly powerful and genius for a number of reasons. I went in, when I first heard the prophecy in book 5, I read that going, fucking hell, are they going to make Harry a killer? Like, that seemed a really bold move to me. Like, either, one of them's got to kill the other one. Well, Harry dying is a pretty bold move, but also, it's really bold in fundamentally a children's fantasy book series to literally have your hero turn into a killer. If you look at a lot of, children's epics and stuff like that, even when they involve a lot of death, very rarely do you turn the hero into a literal killer. So I'm like, how's she gonna handle that? It's fucking genius. Harry doesn't kill anyone. The entire series, Harry doesn't kill anyone because it rebounds and Voldemort dies by his own hand.
And just to clarify, because I've always found the choice of the word rebound by JK to be a bit of a strange one. What that it doesn't knock off anything and come back and somehow just coincidentally hit Voldemort.
No.
The wand goes into the air. As the spell is coming out of the tip, it leaves his hand and rotates through the air as Harry Expelliarmus it out of his hand, and his spell is already on its way out of the tip, the Avada Kedavra. So it's his own Avada Kedavra that hits him in that moment. Yeah. I've always found the use of the word rebound in the description of that book to be strange, because it does imply some weird, insane, lucky angle where it hits a wall and then bounces back and hits Voldemort. I guess it is still technically within the definition of rebound, but it's not what traditionally the image that conjures up. But yeah, sorry, I don't mean to be pedantic, but that's always fine. Bothered me even in the book. So I just wanted to clarify.
That is not, despite the fact that they put the thing about, Draco being the master and then Harry being the master in the film, that's not what happens in the film. The two curses hit each other. They stop hitting each other, the wand goes into Harry's hand, and Voldemort explodes. Now, just in general, before we deal with Voldemort exploding, because it's intrinsically linked to the snake, what's also weird is, it makes sense in the book, because that's them doing those spells with each other. What's amazing is, consistently, seemingly, in the films, red light has meant, honestly, if you were to look at the films and not know the books, you'd just assume red light means good and green light means bad. But anyway, Voldemort and Harry Expelliarmus and Avada Kedavra each other earlier in that fight, before that moment happens. So if you're watching it, the nuance and the meaning is completely lost, because why on earth didn't the wand disappear out of Voldemort's hand 20 seconds ago or whenever they did it previously? Because they do it previously to it happening at the end. What this film actually makes it look like is that Neville, who is deserving, gets the sword and kills Nagini. I can never say her name.
Nagini.
Nagini. Kills Nagini, and then Voldemort explodes. So it looks like Neville is the hero and the one that has killed Voldemort by destroying the last Horcrux. It's madness. I've ranted very specifically about the wand stuff there, so I don't know if you want to rant about the Neville of it all.
Well, yeah, I want to cover a few of the parts of this, because this whole ending is entirely broken. I don't understand the changes. In every other version of this podcast, where we've reviewed the other 6-7 films, we have always understood the choices. We've always gone, well, he's changed that to slim it down, to cut it down, to shorten the thing so he can fit the book into the movie. That was always the intent. It was always clear. I didn't agree with all the choices, but I understood them. The final act of this movie is so fucking insane, because there's all this gold on the page, and it's just gone. For no conceivable reason, because it's all replaced with something worse every single time. I cannot fucking tell you how much I hate "let's end this the way we started" together.
Yeah.
And then he grabs him and pulls him off the fucking bridge. Whoever wrote that can literally go walk in traffic. Because fuck off. That is literally the single worst piece of writing I could possibly imagine you putting into this. And when on the page, it's perfect. Perfect. Because here's the thing. I reckon the thinking was, well, you need a big epic battle between Harry and Voldemort, and in the book, it's just they do a Mexican standoff that ends in the thing. Where's the action? It's a movie. We got to go big. I want Harry and Voldemort dueling and jumping around and being in different places and leaping off bridges and all this stuff. No, that's not, one, it's not Harry Potter. Two, it's not the tone of the other shit you set up. Three, it doesn't make any sense because Harry Potter is an barely of age wizard with no real skills to match Voldemort's. The only reason Harry wins in the book is because, quite frankly, the circumstances were arranged by Dumbledore trusting in his good choices to get him to that position. The duel does happen, though. There is dueling. It's just not Harry and Voldemort, and that's fine. If you want your action set piece, instead of doing Harry and Voldemort running around like in the worst, honestly, I with my head in my hands almost through most of it, like trying not to actually take it in because it's so fucking offensive to my eyes. Because it's also shot really badly. It's not exciting action. It's pointless. It's lots of just sparks and beams. What a piece of shit it is. Even taking out of the context that there's actually a much better version of this playing out in the book. Take that out of the equation. It's still a fucking awful sequence, top to bottom. It's one of the worst things in the entire franchise. I was absolutely appalled through every second of it. I could not believe how bad it was. Everything about it. Flat shots, shitty special effects, crap story choices, no character work, boring action, no stakes, nothing. Fuck off. So it's already broken. Before we even get to there's a really functional version of it in the book. Because in the book, when Harry is brought out of the woods and there's the standoff and Neville stands up to him, a fight then breaks out. A big duel then breaks out. And Voldemort is dueling McGonagall and Kingsley and all the other people while Harry gets his ducks in a row. Fine.
And there's that really amazing notion that Voldemort can't harm them because Harry echoed the sacrifice of his mother. And they could have fit that in. Like, why? That wouldn't have taken up much time. Why not put that in? Well, that's the thing.
Because that's how this movie should have fucking ended. It should have ended the way the book ended, which is Voldemort's trying to kill all of Harry's friends and loved ones, and none of his spells are sticking or landing or anything. And then Harry reveals himself. The whole room falls silent. The two start circling each other. Everyone watching. There's a really important reason for everyone watching, by the way. Very important. The whole fucking story's broken because, let me tell you, the first thing that happens in the Harry Potter series when we learn about Voldemort is Hagrid says, a lot of people reckon he died. Codswallop, in my opinion. Not enough human left in him to die. You need other people to see him die. You need a body. Not just because that's cool, because it's like it shows him as being human to you as the audience and makes you understand he's definitely dead just as a viewer of the thing, but also for the logic of the entire world. Because let me tell you something, the way it plays out in the film, there is no way that society is ever going back to being comfortable. Because they're always going to be wondering if he's coming back. Because no one saw it, and he turned into sparkle dust. So that's broken as well, so put that in the fucking list of things this movie gets horribly wrong. But let's actually hit the fucking, let's hit the end part. We have a fight built into it. If you want your big action sequence, why not just use the action sequence that's in the book? And then you have the standoff. Harry can give out the line of, none of your spells are binding. Tom, have you not noticed? It's because I've done for them. I didn't mean to, but I've done for them what my mother did for me. They're protected from you. So you say it in 10 seconds. And it's a really badass moment. Then you have them, as the sun hits the sky, just like described in the book, the Expelliarmus of Avada Kedavra, the wand backfires, Voldemort dead. That's what you do. Because what actually happens, and I will hear no different, is Neville kills Voldemort in the film. There is literally no other way to interpret the images. I went through it literally shot by shot. Harry and Voldemort are shooting beams at each other. It doesn't work. They both return to their normal states. They're both stood staring at each other. Then Harry Expelliarmus the wand out of Voldemort's hand. No spells otherwise happening. He catches the wand, and at that moment, Neville kills Nagini, and Voldemort turns to dust. There's no other way to interpret that sequence of events, because Harry isn't doing anything that could possibly kill Voldemort in that moment. He's not firing a spell at him. Voldemort's not firing a spell at Harry. There's literally nothing that could possibly be killing Voldemort. And what's worse is, they already had a line, I think, in one of these movies that's like, well, we'll have to kill the last piece of the soul as well, the piece inside his body. It's not once you kill all the Horcruxes, he just melts. So, what we've done is, we've taken away the much more interesting ending. We've taken away the much more interesting action. We've taken away all the logic of it, because now we have a wizarding world that will be constantly in fear of Voldemort returning. We've also robbed the audience of Harry's sacrifice, making the entire trip through the woods void, pointless, null, nothing. He might as well have not been a Horcrux. What's that for now? Nothing. All of that is gone in service of an infinitely worse piece of media. I cannot fathom the choices here. I was gobsmacked, Chris, at how bad this was. And I remember hating this fucking movie. Truly hating this movie. But I cannot tell you how frustrated it made me on this viewing. It is absolutely appalling, abysmal. Everyone involved should be utterly ashamed at the absolute shit show. I honestly, I could have wiped my arse with a film reel, ran it through a projector, and it would be better than what they've put on screen. Nothing about it works. No character or anything. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Dreadful.
Well, it just, you've got all the, because what's really infuriating about it is they put all the ingredients in. Do you know what I mean? They put the Elder One stuff in. They put the Horcrux stuff in. Like you say, there's a line about the piece of his soul in his body. So when you've put all of that in, why aren't you then utilising it? And like you say, it just feels like it could have been as epic as it is now, if you want to say epic, if it was in the hall fighting. Because what's more, we don't even see, no battles are taking place in the hall. So visually it's different to everything else that you've already seen. Or if you want to do the courtyard and have them fly about a little bit, you can do, but have everyone else out there still. Have the action be is in the book.
I don't need the location. There's a reason the choices that were made. They were not arbitrary. It was not an accident that, in the end, his body just crumpled to the ground, proving that he was human after all. Nothing more than that. You know, it's not a coincidence that she set it up so Harry doesn't really duel Voldemort properly until the last moment, and he wins that through all those circumstances. Because she's right that it doesn't make any sense those two could go toe-to-toe at all. That's correct. It doesn't make sense. And it's not a mistake she has everyone watching, because, again, it's sort of like the wizard. Those choices were all made for a really specific reason. And the choices made here are just arbitrary, asinine nonsense that does nothing but harm this film. And that's not even getting into the rest of the shit show that this movie is. I cannot believe this made it to screen. I cannot. At this point, were they just like, it'll make money, no one cares? Was no one paying attention to any of this? I don't understand. I really don't. And I don't know what Close was doing, because, we've established he's clearly a big fan of the books. He clearly loves this material. So I don't understand how he could have misinterpreted the ending of the book so significantly that he felt these changes were acceptable.
Maybe he did, because it just doesn't, it's not even visually that interesting just watching them. Oh, because also, what's Harry's plan when they fly down? And that weird thing where, he's grabbing Voldemort and Voldemort's head, splits and there's a frame of, two Voldemort heads. It's so weird. What's going on in that moment? I've got no idea.
No. It's colours and noises because they thought you needed colours and noises. It's insulting. It's insulting to the audience's intelligence. Because it's not the end of a story. It's just, here's some spectacle. Because. And it's not good spectacle either. Because that's the other thing. You can get away with spectacle if it's good spectacle. I'll go,
well, you forgive
lost this story thing, but you did achieve this. We've had that. We said it before. We didn't like that the dragon got out and they had a big fight elsewhere.
That's just what I was going to say.
Yeah, but you know what? I got it. I went, movie needs an action beat. There's your action beat. Looks pretty cool. I can't really complain. I'd rather it wasn't there. I like my Harry Potter a bit more subtle, but fine. I could live with that because it doesn't harm the story. All of these choices harm the story. Every single one of them.
I just can't. I don't know how anyone that's not read the books follows it. I really don't. Do you know what made me laugh in the cinema? And everyone looked at me as if to say, all right, knobhead, like, why are you laughing? But I swear down, literally a proper, almost sarcastic, like a proper laugh. Do you want any guesses?
Guess?
Yeah, go on.
Is it Harry revealing himself in the assembly?
No. What?
Because that's the moment I laughed at out loud.
Again, what's his plan? Like, and because also, one, I swear there's a continuity error. Like, he's back in like his jacket like quite quickly. It's weird. Two, it's just cocky. Like, literally, it did at some point. He go, I know, I'll get in the queue and then I'll reveal myself in this big dramatic. Why? How's that beneficial to anyone, Harry?
Harry, do you remember that thing you need to find and you're on a really tight timer because Voldemort's coming? Maybe, instead of revealing yourself to Snape and turning it into a war zone that'll get several of your friends killed, maybe try to look for it subtly at first until you're caught and then go all out. Maybe, instead of showing yourself in the Great Hall and actually actively seeking out a war, maybe just try a bit of subterfuge. Just have a look. Maybe sneak to Ravenclaw Tower while things are quiet. Not have to go to Ravenclaw Tower during an actual war breaking out. Maybe. Yeah. I don't know. I'm guessing here. Maybe that's a better plan. Who knows, right?
Yeah, the bit that made me laugh my arse off was, that's the most powerful wand in existence. Yeah. Harry proceeds to snap the wand in half with his bare hands. Fucking hell. Okay. Like, I'm not saying...
I'm not against the idea of him breaking up the wand and throwing it away. I think you could, make an argument that what Harry does with it in the book is dumb. For those who don't remember, he leaves it in Dumbledore's tomb, replaces it there, and then it goes, oh, if I die a natural death, the spell will be broken. Harry, isn't your plan to become an aura?
Yeah, because also, isn't it like he's just explained about the Elder Wand and its allegiances to an entire hall full of people, some of which were Death Eaters, because in the book they don't randomly fucking run away and seemingly get away with it. We'll talk about that. But in I believe most of them, well, maybe, do they run away in the book? No, they stay, don't they?
To the point where after the whole situation is over and everyone's just in the Great Hall celebrating, eating, the Malfoys are just sat in the corner not quite sure what to do with themselves. That's like an actual section of the book. It's great. I love
it. Which is madness, considering, like, well, because I did wonder this, actually. Because is Lucius back with them? Or is Lucius just in... Yes, no, he is back with them, isn't he?
In the book? Yeah.
Yeah. So... I agree, because it's kind of like, but this room full of people have just heard that all they really need to do is Expelliarmus you and then nick it off Dumbledore. Like, you're making a lot of assumptions that people won't do that.
So, in principle, in theory, Harry destroying the wand is fine as a change. Really, it is. I have no issue with that. I just think if you're gonna immediately follow up Ron describing it as the most powerful wand in the world, and then have Harry snap it with the ease of it's just click, it's just done. Like, it just undercuts it a little. Either don't line up those two lines quite so perfectly to be a comedic thing, or have Harry have to do something specific to destroy it. Like, he has a plan to destroy it.
That's why I couldn't... Yeah, because in the film, he doesn't fix his own wand. Like, okay. Speaking of wands... What the fuck? They set up... I'm jumping around, I apologise. They clearly set up and dedicate 10, 15 seconds to establishing that they have Bellatrix's wand. So why the fuck is it played as tension? And do they have to Imperius the Goblin in the bank when he asks for Bellatrix's wand? Was I the only one sat there going... They've got the wand. Like, why is she fighting this? Like, is it a clever... Well, Bellatrix would fight it?
No,
like, this is another one of those.
This is another one of those. It's missing book context situations, because in the book, they don't want to hand over the wand because they realise how stupid their plan was, because, of course, Bellatrix will have warned Gringotts her wand has been stolen.
Well, that is not in the film, my friend.
No, it's not. No. So you're right. You're 100% right. Again, missing context that makes the whole scene make no sense. So because in the book, Griphook goes like, "Oh, they know," and Harry's whole thought process is, shit. Not only do they know, but we were very naive to do this. Of course, Bellatrix warned them that her wand has been nicked. If that's a method, if you lost the keys to your house, you'd be tempted to change the locks. If the keys to your house were specifically stolen by an enemy of yours, you would definitely change the locks. Because lost keys, sure, the chances of anybody knowing what door those keys are for, assuming you haven't put your address on them, slim. You're probably fine, right? Lost key is probably fine. But deliberately taken by your enemy? Yeah, you're gonna do something there, aren't you? So the first thing Bellatrix did, send an owl, I assume, to Gringotts. Hey, if my wand turns up there, maybe just give me a call, because my wand's been stolen. And they figure that out very quickly, and that's the tension. But of course, the movie doesn't bother explaining that. So instead, you're just left with a confused audience going, "Why? She has the wand. Give them the wand." And your response there is a perfect example of like that is how it's perceived if you don't remember that moment from the book. It's insane.
No,
absolutely insane.
Absolutely. Now, Dan,
yes.
We teased it. Changing dialogue from the books for no reason. Do you know can you name me the scene in which the line "I take real offence at" being changed is in?
I thought I could, but the way you phrased it just then, no, because the line I'm thinking of, I don't believe is a change from the book. It's an addition. So actually, the line I thought you were talking about is not the line.
So what line let's do yours first. What line did you think it was?
When I watched the movie, there's the moment there's the dragon burns to death the person that they imperioused and forced down there, and despite the fact we just had a big emotional Dobby, the goblins and elves and all these people are they're as human as wizards. They're people too. Goblin gets burnt to death by a dragon through no fault of his own, but the fact they brought him down, and Ron just goes, "That's unfortunate," like it's a joke, and then they leave. It's atrocious.
Oh, it's absolutely played as a joke for sure.
And that is absolutely appalling on every level. And the fact that any human being could put that in a script and think that was acceptable is beyond me. That is, 1, 1,000 times out of character. 2, completely against all the themes and points of the movies and books. And 3, just not funny to start with. Like, even if it made perfect sense for those characters to feel that way about that goblin being burnt to death, it's still a shit joke. Everything about it.
Yeah.
Is infuriating.
Well, it also goes against, like, in particular, Hermione's character. Not necessarily in the films, to be fair. The elf stuff has been cut, the spew stuff, but still, madness.
Yeah, it absolutely. Honestly, it blew my mind. And when he said that's unfortunate, I went, "Oh, that's probably the line Chris is zeroed in on," because that to me is endemic of just a man who doesn't understand the books at all. Just writing shit in a script, and it's embarrassing.
So
it's really embarrassing.
The bit that angers me, because
yes.
It not only changes the meaning, it doesn't make any fucking sense. So, in the book, Harry asks Sirius if dying hurts, and Sirius says, "Dying, not at all, quicker and easier than falling asleep," which is full of layers as a piece of dialogue. Full of layers, interesting, conceptual, just full of it. Do you know what happens in the film? Does it hurt? Sirius says, "Dying quicker than falling asleep." What the fuck? Does it hurt quicker than... You're not even answering the fucking question. Like, you need and easier
Didn't even pick up on that.
That's not comforting.
So stupid. These films are so stupid.
Does it hurt? Well, It's quick.
Like, what the fuck? Like, yeah, played like that, it's actually quite savage.
Just like dying quicker than falling asleep. What? That's not comforting.
Jesus.
That's not comforting to Harry in that moment. Oh, be quick at least then. Hurts like a bitch, Harry. Don't worry about it though.
That's
Speedy.
brutal. Man,
Look, and
this
it's
is
too,
look.
and it's,
I mean, are we just like this is just nothing about this works, right? Like it's badly shot. It's badly color corrected. It's badly edited. It's badly written. The music is passable at best. What is there anything salvageable in this movie? A genuine question. Like I know it sounds facetious because it's like this movie's so bad I can't think of a single good thing. Where's the good in this?
I've not finished, Dan. It's and easier. It's 2 words. It doesn't save any time. It doesn't save any time cutting those 2 words. And honestly, to the point where I'm like, did Gary Oldman get the line wrong? And they just liked the take, so they kept it in. Like, honestly, it's so boggling to me that anyone would take out and easier from that line. Like, it's absolutely crazy to me. Does anything... I don't like the Ron and Hermione, like, kiss.
Awful.
It's weird. Not really explained.
Lily says always meaningless. Just meaningless.
Yeah, because they've...
That's like a weird thing that's like hinting at the Snape stuff, but it doesn't make any sense. It's just trying to create connections and emotional things, but it just doesn't work.
When does Hermione say always? I can't remember.
No, Lily.
Oh, Lily, yeah. Hints at this, links to the Snape thing, even though that's weird. They got to the battle, but they don't do anything with the battle.
No, the battle
stuff
shit.
They do with the battle. The stuff they do with the battle. I would analyze, but I couldn't really see it.
No, I saw it, Chris. I saw Harry, Ron, and Hermione strolling through a war zone, pretending to be in danger in a way that was so unconvincing that I yawned. Like I was just, yeah, all right, I'm gonna just wander through this war zone. That's cool. Stuff's gonna explode around them. They'll dock every now and then, or they'll speed up a little bit to avoid something, but they'll just get through it, won't they? They'll just get through it. It's like this one long take through a war zone, and it's awful. It's badly shot. It doesn't communicate any level of threat, not for a second. There's nothing interesting happening in it. Because that's the thing. The Battle of Hogwarts in the book has a bunch of really fun, weird, interesting things that are going on. Like Trelawney throwing crystal balls out of a window. I think it's Neville grabbing snips of Devil's Snare and chucking it at Death Eaters. All this interesting stuff that's sort of happening around them. And in the movie version of it, particularly it's it's the sequence when they realize they've got to go to Voldemort, because he's with the snake at the boathouse. And they have to cross the grounds. And it's supposed to be this overly dramatic long take. They play really shitty, emotionally manipulative music. There are some shots that are slowed down. But it's a giant swings a Quidditch hoop at them and they duck. They run a bit. There's some Death Eaters, they zap them. They run a bit more. They dodge some spells. They run a bit more. There's some spiders maybe biting people in the background. They run a bit more there at the boathouse. It just doesn't... It's it's played like it's this, this is the epic thing you've wanted to see, the Battle of Hogwarts! And it's just nothing. There's literally no tension to it. It just is nothing. I don't know.
Yeah, because I was like, oh, there's more battle. When it's only 45 minutes in and the battle's starting, I was like, oh, there's more sort of Battle of Hogwarts than I remembered. And it's oh, no, we're not really going to cut to that much. The Snape, the Prince's Tale is rushed. You don't really follow it. You get that he loved Lily, but that's about it.
Yeah,
that's
you know what? To their credit, if you take the dough out of the last movie, so the Gryffindor's sword just appeared to Harry, it flows a lot better. Because even though the dough comes up here, Yeah, you know what, actually, you need to take the dough out of both. The dough doesn't work. The dough doesn't
Well,
make
especially when it has been established that the sword will appear if you're in need. So you could just have it be that. I like that. Well, but then I suppose if they do that, there's nothing to show that that Snape has actually been protecting and looking after the three of them in this movie. You know, there's that nuance. One of my favorite bits.
They don't clarify that he's the one who gave them the sword. They never say that.
No, they do show. They show Harry looking at the dough. They show Snape casting the dough. They don't explain why. They don't link it to love and stuff. But they do show. They show Snape casting the dough in Dumbledore's office. It's not done well. I think when you have a shot of the dough in Dumbledore's office, and then you have a shot of the dough by the lake or something like that. So it's sort of the insinuation
maybe.
is.
Yeah, fine, but still, Chris. Oh, Chris. Like I'm exhausted. Just. Like none of this works. So even let's backtrack a little. Let's go through this sort of section by section.
I've got a sequence that's all right if you want.
Sorry?
That. I know you want to go section by section. I think the fire sequence is all right. Like it's fine.
Sorry, the line keeps breaking up. I am sorry. What was it? What were you saying was all right?
The fire sequence, the fire in the room of requirement. It's a little bit ropey at the end.
Fire.
When they're in the
you know what?
rooms,
Actually, here's a choice that I prefer. Stabbing the book with the basilisk fang, not the book. Sorry, the diadem with the basilisk fang. In the book, they have to go into this whole explanation of why fiend fire destroys the diadem, and why they have to go to a lot of trouble to explain why Hermione didn't try it, because a lot of the book is trying to get the sword, as it is the only thing they have access to that can destroy a Horcrux. And then Hermione reveals she always knew fiend fire could do it. She just thought it was basically suicidal to do so. Still, if you're that desperate, you'd think about a way to do it in a contained place. They got away from it in this example. Go to a cave, throw the diadem at the bottom of the cave, shoot the fiend fire into the cave, run away.
Yeah, I think that did work. And yeah,
stabbing it with a basilisk fang instead.
Yeah.
There's a lot less explaining you got to do. I was happy with that. That was fine. I'll tell you what I wasn't happy about. I'll ask you this question, Chris. Where is the nuance when it comes to Slytherin's Get Out?
Yeah. So just to say, because I've just gone back and watched it, we have the Lily after all this time, the Patronus gets thing, Snape says always, we see him on the floor with her when she's died, and then we see Harry looking at a Patronus, and we make the connection that it looks like the Patronus Snape has just cast, so they loosely explain it. I'll tell you something about the Slytherins actually, Dan.
Yep.
Because I realised I should have probably done this every week, although it wouldn't have been relevant for the first 2 weeks probably. There's a deleted scene where the Slytherins are literally put in the dungeons, and then later on there's a loud bang and they escape, and that's when Malfoy grabs Crabbe and Goyle. There is
Sorry, don't you mean Crabbe and Blaise Sabini?
Oh yeah, sorry. Yes. Which I'm sure we'll get to in the trivia. but
yeah, we'll come back to that.
Yeah, there's no nuance, because again, and I don't believe the film did this. I don't think so. Again, in the book, puts glasses up nose. That notion of McGonagall saying it's time for Slytherin to decide is so good. And, saying to Horace, you can leave or you can stay. Because I'm in my reread, I've now got to Half-Blood Prince. And Horace is like a scared, runaway kind of guy. And I'm excited to find out whether he stays and fights or not, because I can't remember. I assume he does. But yeah, the nuance of that is gone. But equally, the nuance of the McGonagall stuff, again, in the book, pushes glasses up nose, a Death Eater. Harry's reveal in the book is a Death Eater spits at McGonagall, and Harry whips off the invisibility cloak and says, you shouldn't have done that. And then I believe puts the Crucio curse on the Death Eater. That's a much cooler entrance for Harry to reveal himself than stepping out of... hello.
Yeah, because then she says you shouldn't have done that. It was dumb. And he's like, he spat at you. And she's like, well, as very gallant as that is, it was kind of a dumb thing to do. The book points out that Harry's hot-headedness has hurt him there, you know. And like, really, at the end of the day, that's what this story is about, Deathly Hallows. It's about Dumbledore laying out a plan that was supposed to tempt Harry, you know, to challenge that in him. Do you be patient and stick the path chasing the Horcruxes, or do you go for what seems like the easy win with the Hallows? And it's all about Harry's, hot-headedness getting in the way.
And in the end, Harry chooses to be braver, smarter, whatever than Dumbledore, and he goes for the Horcruxes and isn't tempted by the Hallows like Dumbledore was. Because again, why? Because, oh, man, honestly, what is the point of any of the Dumbledore backstory that's crammed into these two movies by, the Prophet article and the references to it and the brother? Like, would it not have been so much cleaner if it's not Dumbledore's brother in the in the bar? It's someone else that we've met. Obviously not Lupin, because Lupin's at Shell Cottage with Tonks. We know that from last week. But maybe Mad Eye dies. Maybe it's I don't know who it could be. But yeah, would that not make more sense? Come on, people.
Yeah. I mean, it's so exhausting trying to even review this. Like, it really is. Like, it's so broken. Like, every small element of this you could just tear apart to pieces. Like, they try to paper over the mirror stuff in a way that makes no sense in this, and I can't even begin to explain how it makes no sense.
You know what annoys me about that, mate? Literally, as we're watching the film, I went all that mirror stuff, and I was like, oh god, they're really going to lengths with this. I suddenly realised Harry doesn't need the shard of mirror at the beginning of the movie. Harry could find the mirror in Grimmauld Place at the beginning of part 1. Like, just even that's better. Just don't have him have the mirror, even though we haven't seen him get it. Have him find the mirror at Grimmauld Place. Why does he have to be holding the mirror? And why do we have to start with the mirror? Because he does in the book. Like,
right? Yeah, because their explanation is it's a mirror that Harry's got a. It's not a two-way mirror like in the book. It's a mirror with a shard missing from it, and it's because it's magical. Looking into one sees out of the other, and you know what? Fine. That's fine. It's magic. We've said so many times that in a world where magic exists, so many of these plot points don't need to be problems. They go to Grimmauld Place in the last movie.
Yep.
Harry sees the shard on the floor. There's like a clear missing space on the wall where the mirror would have been, but there's a shard on the floor from where Mundungus nicked it, and Harry picks it up. He sees an eye in it. It thinks it's Dumbledore's. He doesn't say that, but, the audience and him both have that moment. And then he kind of pockets it out of, like, this is something. And then, in the next movie, you reveal Mundungus stole the mirror. There was a chip missing from it. Harry found the chip, but the chip, it was sold to Aberforth, and that's what that is. That's perfectly fine. Nothing wrong with that. But, as you said, they have to completely break that logic by having Harry have it way before Grimmauld Place, so the question still looms, where did he get that piece of mirror from?
Well, I think, you know what, honestly, I think he got it from Sirius, and it just was off screen. And because that
but
is
why?
how...
Why did Sirius give him a shard of mirror?
But again, that is a common problem we found with these movies. Sometimes it feels like the answer is the same as it is in the book, but we haven't seen it. So you just need to have that knowledge of the books for it to make any fucking sense. And that's just not it. These films have to stand on their own. I would love to watch these movies through with someone that has, because I just imagine a lot of people that haven't read the books but have seen the movies were either too young and let this shit wash over them, or watched it with someone that knew the books, so asked them. I would love to sit and watch these movies with someone that has no knowledge of any of it and see how much they follow it. And just say to them, they just literally watch every movie with them and turn around and go, what was that about? And I just don't know how in this one you follow the Elder Wand, the Mirror, the Horcruxes. I don't know how you follow any of it because nothing is explained. This, unfortunately...
it's got that, like, surface logic. It's got that thing where if you don't think about it too hard, it just about tracks. And you just sort of assume that if the answers are there and maybe you missed them. I think that's what it is. I think most people watch these movies and just sort of like let it go in sort of lightly, sort of passively. And it's like, oh, the shot of mirror Harry has is from that one in Aberforth. Okay, cool. They don't actually go into the thought. They go with it. They don't think, well, wait a minute, where did he get that from? And when did it leave? They don't then pursue the detail. Us sitting here reviewing it, of course, that's all we're looking for, which is why this is such a frustrating thing to review. But the problem, I think, I could sit here all day and we could nitpick 1,001 little moments from this movie, like the mirror, like this, like that. And these are all valid criticisms of the movie. The bigger issue is when they really hurt the character and plot. Because when it just hurts the practical, it hurts the flow of it. It hurts it hurts when you're pulled out of the movie to go, wait, what? Where did that come from? What was that? That sucks. But then there are times when it really actually hurts the story they're trying to tell. Really hurts the characters. Ron saying that's unfortunate hurts the characters. Massively.
Yeah, especially when... Especially, and not just hurts the character in terms of what we know about the character from the book. No. In the movie, at the start of this film, the goblin from Gringotts compliments Harry for how much he cares about, non-wizard creatures and how he took the time. He says to him, "You buried the elf." That means something. So to then have Harry's best friend make a joke, and I got to be honest, I did laugh. I did find the joke funny. But you're right, it absolutely hurts the character, doesn't fit in with the tone they've established. But this part, like part one, is all this film doesn't give a fuck if it's got to tell a joke after something dramatic happening. Like I'll tell you an example of that wound me up. And again, it's weird. It's weird for what it does to the character. McGonagall, kick-ass moment where she makes all the statues come to life and get ready to fight, and then they march off, and then she says, "I always wanted to do that spell." Again, an entertaining moment. I think you laugh at Maggie Smith's delivery and you laugh at Julie Walters' reaction. But I tell you what I found so funny about Julie Walters' reaction. It's like it's like Mrs. Weasley is going, "That's a bit odd and a bit poor timing, isn't it, to be enthusiastic about this? We're about to go to war and potentially die." Doesn't it come just after the whole, "You might as well get used to saying his name, he's going to try and kill you anyway"? And then you get it all, it just doesn't fit. It's entertaining, but it harms the characters. It doesn't fit right with that moment.
Mm-hmm. And it's just an absolute lack of understanding of any of that. It's remarkable screenwriting. You just can't get your head around how someone could think that's an acceptable thing to put in a script. I really can't. I can't fathom it. How many films are this egregious when it comes to just throwing their characters to the fucking wolves for a cheap joke? I can't imagine it. It's so insane.
Why do Ron and Hermione kiss? Is it adrenaline? Is it...
Who the fuck knows? They kissed as they kissed in the book. The script says, at that exact point, Chris, I'll pull it up. It says, Ron and Hermione kiss. Why? I don't know. I read it in the book, so it has to happen. In the book, they described that it happened, and here, we're actually seeing it happen because film.
But it would have been, if you're going to... So they can't do what they do in the book. So in the book, pushes up glasses... Ron acknowledges the elves. Ron is almost the exact opposite of the moment with the goblin in the bank. He says, "What about the house elves? we need to send them away. We can't ask them to die for us. He is finally acknowledging the elves as just as valuable as human life.
Right.
And Hermione's overcome with the emotion and kisses him.
Well,
now,
to clarify, though, the context to that is that for several books, Hermione has been campaigning for elf rights, and Ron has been a bit dismissive when it comes to house elves, saying things. He's playing the role of like the ignorant wizard that just sort of assumes something and has to learn that actually it's not what he thinks, so he thinks, well, they like it, don't they? They like serving us. That's kind of what's happened. And he's sort of been indoctrinated into this sort of like, elf version of a patriarchy, where we've put ourselves, where wizards have put themselves above them, and he's sort of part of it. And it takes him, that moment is him basically finally, seeing Hermione's side. We can't ask them to die for us, and so he's finally shown, I guess, that he can learn, and he's learning from her, and like, they share this view now, and it's a really powerful moment, but it comes with a shit ton of context, which the movies don't have, and probably shouldn't have.
The movies.
I'm not suggesting the movie should go back and insert all the spew stuff.
Yeah, no. To be fair, the movies can't do that because they quite rightly took the spew stuff out, and that was a sensible, logical decision for the movies. But it's just so weird. Like, why not? The snake is attacking them. Neville kills the snake. The snake is done. They've achieved their mission. They've got rid of the snake, but they still might die at any moment. So then they kiss, or something like that. There's actually a fun deleted scene, which I wish they'd kept in, where they're running down the stairs, and Ron says, "I've got something to tell you." And Hermione says, "Don't tell me anything you wouldn't tell me if a giant snake wasn't trying to kill us. It will ruin them. It will ruin it." Now that's I almost would have rather they just kept that in instead of the snake, or maybe they kept that in and then the snake's destroyed. Hell, I'd even rather, Voldemort dies. Harry's walking through the Great Hall, and then the doors open, and Ron and Hermione are kissing, and they have that head nod moment that they have. Like, there's just so many.
They could even borrow the line from the book, because when they kiss again in the book, they kiss twice. There's the kiss down in the thing. Oh, maybe the kiss is in front of Harry, because I just remember Harry says, "Is this the moment?" Like,
that's the first kiss, yeah. And they say, well, it's kind of, if not now, when, or something like that.
Yeah. It's now or never, mate, or something like that is what Ron's reply is.
Neville in this film is in love with Luna. He's mad for Luna Lovegood, and he's got to tell her. Bit weird that later on we see them sat there and he doesn't tell her. They're not holding hands or anything. He's just mad for her. Says it in that moment. We don't do anything with that.
Doesn't she reach out and their hands touch?
Nope. Don't think so. I'll check now, but I'm fairly sure they don't.
I'll be honest with you, like, of all the things in this movie, I think that one I'm kind of okay. That's fine. It's clear that those two kind of, she chooses to come sit next to him. The implication being that either she's figured it out or he did tell her. I didn't mind that too much. I don't even really mind Neville and Luna being a thing. That's fine. It's,
No, I've got no objection to them being a thing. I just wish they did. If you're going to put that line in, do something with it. Her hands are literally in between her legs. Like she's tapping her legs against her hands.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. I don't know. I get, maybe there's logic in, but it's just not even played right, in my opinion, the kiss. Like, they go through this thing. They just get really wet because, as we discussed, you thought the Horcrux in the woods was bad. At least it made an effort. Like, this one just pours a shitload of water everywhere.
Yeah. This is the Horcrux that the first Horcrux is like, guys, you give me a lot of shit, but the water guy, like, he's way worse. And they're like, but he's old enough to buy beer, so we like him. Like, he's that guy.
Yeah, he's funny. He's always getting people wet for the lols. Yeah. Did you see how wet he got those teenagers?
Yeah, we could have a pool party with this guy around. What are you bringing to the table?
Why do they get wet? Just a creepy, weird decision. It's so odd.
Yeah.
King's Cross. That doesn't make any that concentrates on all the wrong things. And yeah,
Do you think? I mean, I must admit, with King's Cross, I was kind of like, considering what the books, what's gone from the books in the movies, like what's left is basically what's left. Like if you wrote out the exact scene, the dialogue, the exchange between Harry and Dumbledore from the book into a script form. So Harry says this, and they did the scene descriptions, which is the descriptions from the book, right, the prose, and turned it into like a script 1-to-1, exactly. And then went through it and deleted everything that's not been established or explained in the movie. You'd probably be left with this conversation exactly as it is.
There's some things like we know his mother protected. The movies cover his mother's protection, and that's not talked about. And the movies have him take on Voldemort, take on Harry's blood, which protects him. But it's a bit convoluted for the purpose of the films.
The two things that need to be communicated there for me are I'm with that though, which is the Harry's alive on the grounds that what Voldemort just killed was the Horcrux inside of him, and Harry's bravery led him to that moment because it could only happen in a way like that, and that Harry has a choice. I think it's always important that's in the script in the book, because in that moment, he's had a good run. He's taken out multiple Horcruxes. Voldemort's nearly done. It'd be very tempting to just go, you know what, I've done my bit. Leave it to the rest of them. I'm going to move on with my life. Move on with my death, I suppose. It would be a better phrase. I'm literally going to, sort of board a train, so to speak. That's the fact that Dumbledore offers Harry that choice, knowing full well that Harry's character would never allow that to happen. It just tells us an awful lot about both those characters. I think it's a really important moment, and it is in the movie, and it's pretty much untouched. Like that actual exchange is there, right? Like he says, what happens now? Well, you can go back or you can move on. He's going back is facing Voldemort, probably for the final time, or staying is, moving on, whatever that looks like. So I was okay. I must admit, I was kind of okay with that. I didn't think that was.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's a fair explanation.
And it also does have one of my favorite exchanges from the entire book, which is, of course, is this real or is it all happening in my head? Well, of course it's happening in your head, but why shouldn't that mean it's real? Which is a nice back and forth too. I don't know. It was. To be honest with you, I wouldn't say it's good, but I would say the King's Cross sequence is maybe closer to the previous movies in terms of it's just fine. Like, that is a reasonably adequate interpretation of what that scene is. Cut to ribbons, missing some important stuff, but sure.
Yeah, I suppose it's difficult because obviously in the film version, the reason Harry goes back is because he's got no fucking idea how hard death is, because Sirius only told him that it was quick. Which I assume is the reason. Speaking of deaths, now, in the book, some of the deaths are very brutal. Which one dies? Fred or George? It's George, isn't it? Fred. Fred's death is given time in the book, and is given we see it, his last laugh on his face, maybe, I think, or something. That might be Sirius, it might be both, I don't know. But we see it, it's a beat. And then Remus and Tonks are very much just Harry's eyes gaze upon them, and they're dead. Now, that's actually the Remus and Tonks of it all is a powerful. Sorry, say that again.
No, that was my editing software. Started playing sounds of us reviewing Philosopher's Stone.
Oh. No worries.
I basically accidentally pressed a button on my laptop that turned on the sound, and it turns out that was running in the background. So I'm sorry.
Cool.
I was editing earlier
that
today.
idea, and spoilers for the book in particular as well, Colin Creevely's death, which is done in a very similar way, and really fucking hit me. It's a great representation and
is it Colin Creevey here, or is it Nigel? Does Nigel die? I saw a young kid
No, I'm
dead
talking about
in
the
this,
book. No,
I was...
in the book, Colin's death is like particularly impactful because he was too young and stayed behind to fight, and then is sort of like Harry's eyes.
He snuck back into the castle to fight for Harry and got himself killed that way. Yeah, that's right.
Now, It's that idea is a really good exploration of war, because the notion of like of how brutal it is and how shocking it can be, and not everyone gets a hero's death, because unfortunately some people just die brutally. Now, obviously that's translated to screen, because that's how we discover Fred, Tonks, and Remus. What did you think of that translation? Do you think it still works? Do you think maybe we did need to see Fred die in action, or someone die in action? Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think we do, because I think you have to communicate the different ways in which these things happen. I think Remus and Tonks' deaths, the way he just sort of they're gathering the bodies up and he just finds their bodies are in the pile, essentially, is a brutal way to discover that. And the fact that it's an off-screen death, I think some people have, complained about in the past, but I think, that's war. People are going to die in and around you. The problem when you also do it with Fred is that you're doubling up. It's the same thing. It's the same message in the same moment. The Fred death represents something different, which is the shock and awe that somebody could be behind you or next to you, cracking a joke 1 second and dead the next. I think the words are the ghost of his last smile still on his face, or something to that effect. The idea that somebody who's your friend will be literally stood next to you 1 second and be dead the next is also an important part of establishing that it's a war with consequences, and basically lumping them together and making them the same kind of thing, where it's like an aftermath thing. You discover several of your friends is not effective. I think I complained earlier about the sequence when they're trying to head down to the boathouse to confront Voldemort, Nagini, Snape, that whole situation. Why not throw it in there? Because that sequence is already absolutely horrendous. It's boring, tensionless nonsense. You know what wouldn't have made it? Yeah. You know what would have made it less tensionless, Chris? A death.
Yeah, especially if you have, because Ron and Hermione are completely surplus to the Snape scene. So can you imagine if Fred dies and Harry's screaming and Ron, even through the grief and the tears, Ron's going, go to Snape, and Harry's going, I want to get rid, and he's got, go, you have to go to Snape. And we leave Ron and Hermione poured over Fred, still picking up fighting, because we don't feel, we have some fun with Neville and the bridge. I don't know if we feel a lot of jeopardy in that battle, because other than Colin Creevey, we don't really see anyone we love and know.
Is that
we don't
Colin
really
Creevey?
know well, Colin or Nigel, whichever one it is.
That's what I was trying to figure out, because obviously Colin has been in the movies, but later on they sort of write him out to be this random new character, Nigel, who's like an amalgamation of Colin and Colin's brother, whose name is escaping me right now. So this is just this Nigel character. I really want to know who that was, because they do show a young kid dead that looks a bit like one or the other, but I couldn't quite place which. So I want to know, man. Justice for Nigel, man. Did Nigel die? Did Nigel deserve an on-screen death? Thoroughly.
I'll see if I can get it and let you know. But I just think, actually, weirdly, there doesn't seem to be a lot of jeopardy in this battle.
None. And again, what would solve that would be a death. So there's two problems with moving the Fred death to off-screen. One is you lose jeopardy from the battle, and two is you're doubling up on the message, in the way that it's exploring war and loss during war. It's ding ding ding, take a shot, everyone. Bad writing.
Yeah, because we should be.
We found some terrible writing.
I'm watching the sequence now, ready for the Nigel bit. I'm not being funny. We know Ron, Hermione, and Harry aren't going to die in this moment. Even someone that's not read the books, not familiar with the story, knows that Ron, Harry, and Hermione are not going to die in this moment. So let's see shots of all the people that we saw preparing to fighting. You know what? For the purpose of the film, if you want to keep the Fred shock because we know the Fred character a little more, no, you could have done it. It's just I think Fred, or if you want to keep it cleaner, Remus and Tonks, we need to see one of them die. We need one of those deaths on screen.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, so we let's. I'm so exhausted by this. It's everything about this movie sucks. Aberforth. Let's talk about Aberforth. Why? Why Aberforth?
Well, yeah, exactly. Like I said earlier,
what are we doing with Aberforth in this movie?
Doesn't need to be in it.
Yeah. I mean, he's useful to the story. Yeah, he could serve a really good purpose, but because they've stripped it of that, why is he in the movie?
Yeah.
If we're not going to do the Dumbledore backstory, I don't know what the point of Aberforth is.
Because it's Aberforth in the books, and they're too scared to change anything.
But there doesn't need to be anyone. Why can't they just appear at the school? I wouldn't have questioned it. These movies don't give a shit about, like, consistent logic and stuff.
Well, just go into the pub and like discover the portrait. Like, it's fine. Or go into the pub and have Neville there. Have Neville be the one that pulls them in. None of the Dumbledore backstory needs to be in either of these films.
Yeah. Well, it's not. That's the problem. Is it's not in the film. So why have Aberforth there? Like they've skimmed over it. So the point of Aberforth is just needless. It's just there's no. He serves no purpose here. Yeah, and the scene as a result is just him being all like, "Oh, Dumbledore gave you a task, did he? Shit, you're a child. You shouldn't be doing it." Harry being like, "Well, I'm gonna." Cool.
Wow. On the Wikipedia, Harry Potter Wikipedia entry for Nigel Walpert, it doesn't reference him. It references him being there, and apparently he's seen in the Room of Requirement. And he's on the wooden bridge, but maybe it's not him getting eaten then. Wow.
Nigel lives, everyone.
Who gets killed by... It's Greyback, isn't it? Because I've paused it on Amazon, and Grey... Oh, weirdly, it can't be. Hold on, is that meant to be... Mate, hold on, let me check this. There's a name. No, hold on.
I'll tell you one thing I'll give him a slight compliment on while you're doing that. I think Ollivander, at the start of the movie, knowing about the Hallows is a smart change. It allows him to recap what they are. It's fine for him to know what they are and explain. So, yeah, that works for me. In the book, he doesn't know. And he just, when Harry says, "Do you know anything about Deathly Hallows?" he's like, "Is this still a question about wand law? I only know about the Elder Wand," which is, evident in the establishing that Voldemort doesn't know about the Hallows either. He just knows about the Elder Wand because the Elder Wand is the most obvious the most sort of easily traceable through wizard history because it changes hands through murder more often than not. So there's a lot of evidence of that having existed. A lot of people realised, whereas the Resurrection Stone and the Invisibility Cloak, obviously by their nature, more subtle. So yeah, that's pretty cool.
Right. Right. We do have a person. Do you want to know who it is?
Go on.
It's Lavender Brown.
What?
It's Lavender because I first checked via Amazon and I paused it and I saw Jessica Cave, Lavender Brown, and I was like, "Oh, she must have been in the scene before. It doesn't say who it is." And I've dug into it, and no, it's Lavender Brown. In the books, apparently she does sustain injuries from Greyback, but it's never confirmed whether or not she dies. In the film, strikes me that she definitely dies. I just had no idea that was Lavender Brown.
Wow. Christ.
It's like it's Hermione that yelled, "Have that beat again." Just character stuff. Why is it not Ron yelling no? Ron was the one that dated her 2 films ago. Yeah,
right.
It's Hermione that yells no, and then Hermione flips Greyback off of her. And that apparently that does happen in the books, according to a quick Google, but it's, again, executed so poorly. And a character that you and I didn't even recognise as being Lavender. So again...
But no, I'm confused, because I'm wondering if we're talking about different shots, because I recall a shot of a small blonde boy being just on the floor, not eaten, just a body being moved later on when this fighting stops. So I'm wondering if we're talking about different moments.
Oh, so I'm talking about the moment where Greyback is attacking them. Let me see who the body is being credited as being. Because yes, you are right, that does happen as well. So when Greyback is shot off of Lavender Brown, let me see. But just to go back to the point, like Lavender, maybe it is clear it's Lavender Brown, and maybe we're idiots for not realizing it was Lavender Brown. But again, would it not be more obvious if it was a character we'd spent more time with? Like, but then again, I guess at this point, are there that many characters? Well, no, make it, I tell you what, make it Dean, or make it Seamus. Like, make it one of the characters that we've literally been with for all 7 movies.
Yeah, that's a better choice. What did you think about this idea that Harry can hear the Horcruxes? Like, he's got some sort of Horcrux radar built into his head, because obviously by skipping out the memories in Half-Blood Prince, they've got to kind of help Harry find the cup, right? Because he in the book he knows he's looking for a cup, but in the movie he just thinks, for reasons that are very vague and thin, but whatever. In the movies, he thinks there's something in the vault, but he doesn't know what it's going to look like, right? And they walk in and they don't say Accio Cup, they say Accio Horcrux. So they don't know what they're looking for, like what it's going to be. But they in the movies they add that Harry can sort of hear these weird Horcrux whispers. It's like a special power they've given him. I was a bit torn on how I felt about that, because they even build it into the reveal later when Harry's inexplicably, and we'll get to this moment later, telling Hermione and Ron, and it turns out Hermione's known all along that he's a Horcrux. Don't get me started. We'll talk about that. That's a separate problem later on. He says, "Oh, and that's why I can hear them talking, because I'm one of them, I guess." I don't know how I felt about that, because on one hand, that does kind of make sense, but and it kind of it allows you to skip the information. We know where the Horcrux is, we don't know what it looks like. Well, he'll hear it whispering, so it'll be fine. What did you feel about it when you saw that sequence and heard that idea and had that idea implanted?
I think it's fun because because I, like you, I was like, it's different, but it does make sense. There is a logic to it, and it means you can do a bit more in a world where you're cutting out the nuance. Being able to just go, oh, they know the Horcruxes have been destroyed because they can both feel it. Makes sense, and means you can do stuff visually. So I was fine with it. I think, if the change makes sense, you and I have been very consistent on, if the change makes sense, fine, do it. And there's a lot of changes that don't make sense, so I'm fine with, you gotta let them off those that do.
Yeah, I guess so.
As far as I can tell, unless it happens after Fred, Trelawney says, "Oh, she's gone," and puts a sheet over a student, but we don't really get.
No, it's in the grounds. It's in the grounds. It's not in the hall.
Yeah, right. Okay.
It might be when. Oh, I tell you. I've thought of something I liked about the movie, Chris. I've done it. Mm-hmm. I've cracked it. Can I tell you something I liked about the movie?
I don't think so. Not yet.
No. Can I? Are you excited to hear me tell you something I actually liked about the film? Oh, yeah, I liked the way they use audio design to make it sound like Voldemort speaking in their heads is not just horrific, but somehow painful.
Yeah, that's good.
Like, it was really cool. In the book, it's pretty simple. It's like just an echoey voice, that everyone can hear, and it sounds like he's in the room with you, which is kind of creepy. But it's just like Skype. You can't see what the laptop is. Not even Skype, like a speakerphone. You just hear his voice. But this just sounds like it. The way they do the audio design and show the characters reacting to his voice in their heads, it's really effective. It's like proper creepy. The delivery is really good. The sound design's great because it sounds like it's whispery and distant, but also like right in your ear. Like it's it's really cool. And then to combine that with screams, and then the volume level of it changes sentence to sentence in a really sort of unnatural way. That's also really cool. That's really good. I don't know who was involved in the sound design there, but they did a great job. It's brilliant.
I tell you what though, because I agree, it's great. But give with one hand, take with the other.
Yep.
You know what's not good about that? The fact that they have to have a Death Eater. I think it's Lucius even go. Should we not give them more time? I tell you what, movie, Cloves, whoever it is. Instead of having to do that. Instead of having to acknowledge why Voldemort is not letting them wait the full half an hour, because obviously it's a movie, you don't want to do that, why don't you not give a time limit? Why don't you not have Voldemort give them a time limit? Just tell Voldemort to give them... just have Voldemort say, give me Harry. Or make it shorter. Give me Harry in the next 5 minutes. We don't need that scene where they're like, should we not wait? Nah, fuck it. We can't wait. It's a movie, mate.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's give me Harry or else we're coming back. Gather your dead, bring us Harry, or we're back in. But because no distinct when, but just we're coming. Like if you don't,
because in general, the reason for there to be a battle isn't really clear in this movie. McGonagall is like, "What do you want? What do you need? I need time." All right, then. Guess we're going to war. Are we? Okay.
But that's the thing. Like what? Like again, it's no logic to any of this. Like because if the characters were even remotely intelligent, they would have like snuck around Hogwarts for a few hours first, trying to while they had some time to do it, not while like a war was happening, because that's gonna slow you down if anything. I know that Voldemort is on the way and they know that, but he ain't there yet, so you can spend at least a little bit of time being subterfuge, just sneaking about, which is what happens in the book, I think. They sneak to Ravenclaw Tower, they deal with the Carrows. Also, why introduce the Carrows and then immediately dispose of them? I don't understand. Movie, why? Just make it to Death Eaters we've already met. Why did you introduce the Carrows? This is pointless. They don't do anything in the movie.
Are you ready for me to play it a compliment, Dan? You ready?
Oh, please. Yes. I'd love for you to pay it a compliment.
I like the bridge scene. It's fun, and also I never expected, nor did I remember, that they paid off Seamus constantly blowing things up. The fact that someone went, explain the mirror, nah, clarify this, nah. But you know what? You know what does need a bit of a bow on it. Seamus always blowing stuff up. Mwah, love it. I enjoy that sequence. It's fun. The whole thing with the Snatchers, it's a good way of they could have easily, knowing these films, have introduced the Snatchers in part 1 and forgot about them for part 2. But the fact that they're there, the fact that they're fighting, and the really cool heroic way that happens, it all feels in character.
Yeah, and Neville being at one end of the bridge, and then they all charge it in when the portal dies. And him just doing gulp and then running back through the thing, and then it explodes behind him, taking out a bunch of the baddies. But he just hangs on, climbs back up, genuine tension. Yeah, agreed. That's a good scene. I like that scene too.
Could it be argued that the most to the books character arc is Neville? Neville basically goes on truly the same character arc he goes on in the books. They maybe don't play the tough war hero bit as much in this film, mainly due to timing, but he is, undoubtedly a hero by the end. He's gained confidence, all that stuff.
But okay, maybe, but is that a fair comparison on the grounds of, does any character go through a character arc in these movies? Genuinely, I know that sounds like a stupid thing to say. What's Harry's character arc in the movies, other than doing what the plot needs me to do, so I'm fighting bad guys?
Yeah.
Genuinely, if someone
sure.
has the answer to that, please, because it's not present. What's Hermione's arc in these movies? What's Ron's?
Do you think Ron well, I suppose because their love story is played better, Ron and Hermione do have an arc in the books. And Hermione, I think.
Well, Hermione goes from being a fuddy-duddy rule abider to being like the one that's encouraging them to be bold and do the right thing. She finds her moral compass is stronger than her desire to follow rules and authority.
Ron learns
finds
that he doesn't have to be the center of attention. He doesn't have to be the hero. He can support the hero. Yeah.
They all have stuff they're doing. Why is none of that is in these movies?
Well, apart from loosely, I think Neville's maybe the closest.
But I mean, I don't think it's. I don't even think that's fair to compare because the other ones just literally they're not. It's not even like they've tried and failed. They're just not present. Like, Neville's maybe one of the few characters that gets a coherent arc, but it's like a really thin arc that plays out over a couple of movies in 1 or 2 scenes.
I know we talked about it in Half-Blood Prince, but Ginny's, especially now because I'm reading Half-Blood Prince, Ginny's arc in the books is so good. Like that notion of such a good arc to get across to children. That notion of don't panic, just take a breath and be yourself, and actually you might then get what you want by being yourself. Like it's so good, and it's just not there.
We've been very granular, very nitpicky. This has almost ended up a bit like our Philosopher's Stone review, where we've gone into a lot of real detail. Let's talk wider. Is this a functional movie to you? Because I don't think so. It's like the third act of a movie.
Yeah, it's the third act. But how many? To be fair, how many times on this podcast have we had that discussion? Any movie like Back to the Future, Part 3 is the third act of a story. Like, often when things are just split down the middle, and wow, I don't know about you, Dan, but I watched this movie and went, maybe they did just film all of this, not know where they were going to split it, and then decide, because does it feel like one movie?
I've looked into it, and I think that is exactly what happened.
Especially when they open repeating the last scene of the thing before, and it's all continuations of stuff in the previous film, and so no, it doesn't. But I don't know what you do to avoid that when you're splitting a book in half and making it 2 different movies. And I don't have an answer for that either, other than make it a TV show.
But let me lay it out this way then. What if this movie opened with Harry sitting down with Ron and Hermione, explaining his struggles with Dumbledore's plan, his lack of trust in Dumbledore's plan, and not being sure anymore?
That was also our pitch for the first movie. Make the first movie Hallows v Horcruxes.
But they didn't do that. So what if this movie is that, and it has its own arc, with ending in him, choosing to complete Dumbledore's plan and sacrifice himself
and destroy the Elder Wand.
Sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Would it feel more like a movie of its own then?
Yeah, that's fair.
Also, do you think it needs its own title? I wondered about this. Like, Deathly Hallows Part 1, Deathly Hallows Part 2. Do you think it could the last one could have been called Harry Potter and Deathly Hallows, and this one could have been called like Harry Potter and the Battle of Hogwarts or something?
Yeah, I think that would have also been better, actually.
I wondered about that.
Yeah, that would have been... Because, I mean, that is this film, like, through and through. So
right, and that's why this one's so hard to review. I think the reason we're just reviewing it by picking out random moments is because this movie, more so than any of the others, isn't a coherent movie. It is literally just a series of moments all designed to try and quote-unquote wrap up this story. But it's just such a mess. It's so deeply unsatisfying that all you can do is pick each moment and go, well, that didn't work, that didn't work, that didn't work.
Well, not to do that more, but the battle stuff, the Prince's Tale, the fire scenes, Snape's literal death we've not touched upon, but so Snape's death and the Gringotts, robbery at the beginning, we haven't touched upon at all. What are your views on those?
Well, you already talked about the tension, attempt to build tension that didn't work in up top. Down below, once they go in, I mean, I have first of all, I have questions about the shot choices because I've got some trivia later that goes into the fact this movie was converted to 3D. It's the only Harry Potter movie that got converted to 3D for cinema release, and apparently they didn't shoot it with that in mind. They weren't necessarily sure that was going to happen while they were shooting it. But I was watching the minecart zip around in Gringotts and thinking they knew, or they suspected, because there's a lot of deliberate shots there for things to like jump out of the screen and stuff. And then later with Nagini and Snape. Yeah. So I think they made some of this stuff looks flat and weird. I also hate the way they shot Molly and Bellatrix. By the way, what a boring, uninspired, unimaginative, deeply shitty way to shoot Molly and Bellatrix. It's like the way you shoot TV, just coverage of both characters, left, right, left, right, left, right. What a fucking horrible scene! Just absolutely despicable. Like the worst direction, at least for the camera stuff. I can't. But yeah, so Gringotts.
I might have seen it in 3D, you know. Because I have this vivid memory of the snake just looking, like the snake coming out and just looking quite poor.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I think I might have done too. I remember coming out of this movie angry, though. Like, I really remember coming out of this movie angry. And for listeners, if it feels like I don't even have the vitriol I had in the last episode, I'm just beaten down by these. They're so obnoxiously bad. But anyway, Gringotts. So yeah, for me, like I think the sequence, the escape is fine. I think the visual of the dragon coming up out through the hall is really cool, and I'm glad I got to see that. Like, you know, not just imagine it. I think that's one of those moments that really benefits from the transition to a visual medium. But like on the whole, I don't know what it does for anyone. Like,
I mean, it's
just a
the same
pointless
logic
action
as everything
scene, right?
else. It's in the books. It's an action scene, and they get a Horcrux. Like this is one of those bits that I think you could find a way to cut if you were doing it as one movie. But yeah,
that's the other thing. Actually, I've got to ask you about the tension they try to build downstairs. So when they're down in the basement and they're in the vault, and every time you touch something, it multiplies, and Ron very stupidly tests the theory. God knows why. Harry is in a pile of that stuff, reaching for the cup, right? And then there's this one brief moment where it all just stops multiplying for a beat, and everyone exchanges a look like maybe Harry's dead. And all I could think was, why did it stop multiplying? Like, I know why you've done that. You've done that for the beat of, oh, Harry's completely engulfed, and let's pause for a second for that impact to set in. But just physically, practically speaking, it should still all be expanding.
Yeah, that is madness. I don't remember Ron testing the theory. I thought Hermione touched something and then Ron fell into something, but I might be wrong there.
I think he literally picks something up and throws it on the floor like just to see what happens. Like, I think he deliberately just goes, wait a minute, is this stuff multiplying? And he I could be wrong. I could be misremembering, but that's what it feels like. But
I was very distracted during all the Gringotts stuff because I just found myself thinking, is it this easy in the book? Like, does it invisible? Because Gringotts has just been made to be such a place of like unpenetrable. The notion of like the invisibility cloak even working. I was just distracted trying to work out if that's how it happened in the books, but I couldn't remember.
Yeah, it's pretty much. So. It's pretty much how it happens in the books.
Wow.
And I remember not really caring for it in the book because also that spell that makes all the stuff multiply is a little bit world breaking in itself. So does that stuff just expand until the planet is engulfed?
Yeah, until maybe it doesn't work beyond the cell. Maybe.
All right. Well, in that case, that's I like the idea that we're like halfway through the Battle of Hogwarts, and like, you know, the centaurs are coming over the hill to try and get involved, and then suddenly they look behind them and there's a giant mountain of ever-growing gold. Just a wave, tidal wave style, coming over the hill.
I remember reading it and being like, and getting way past it, and then looking at the cover and going, "What's that then?" Oh, right, it's Gringotts.
Right. Yeah. You know, that's pretty powerful magic. You know, the Death Eaters are all gathered on the other side of the bridge, right? Why doesn't Neville just chuck a piece of that Gringotts gold over there? Let one of them touch it. and then it just expands and crushes them all.
My fansplaining has to be that it doesn't work beyond the cell.
But wait, the magic's limitations will be set by the caster, surely. So you find the guy that works at Gringotts that's job it is to bewitch that gold, and you go, hey buddy, come here.
Hey,
you don't like Voldemort, do you? Nah, I didn't think you did. Nah, he's not a fan of goblins. You guys, you won't be very happy under him. How about you get me a couple of pieces of that ever expanding gold?
What about Snape's death? Because Ralph Fiennes and Alan Rickman are brilliant in that scene. Like they're both doing some amazing work.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's a shame that in the film Voldemort never knows Snape betrayed him?
Ooh, two big things to discuss here. Yes, on that last question, I think it is a big shame because I think that moment in the book is really powerful because it's. One thing we haven't talked about. I don't mean to add a question to your question. We're gonna have to onion this. We've come out 3 layers. We're gonna have to work our way back to Snape's death through this. But very quickly, someone said, while I remember, someone did say, I saw online, in defense of Voldemort's dusting, the weird choice of him turning to dust, they said they liked that in the movie there's a beat where he knows he's lost before he disintegrates, whereas in the book it's instant. And I remember, I think I read that. I can't remember if I read that at the time or if more recently or whatever. But like, I do remember thinking like that is a fair point. Like in the book, he doesn't know he's lost. He never finds out he's lost. Whereas in the movie, you see that look on his face when he realizes he's been defeated, right before he turns right before Thanos snaps his finger, and the only being that went away is Voldemort.
Yeah, because I seem to remember there being references to like him wavering a bit when Harry's, exposition dumping and sort of, a moment of, oh shit, and maybe his eyes going wide, maybe. But I think you're right. That's another example of if somehow we got the keys to the kingdom in terms of adapting it into a TV show, I would keep the notion of Voldemort realizing. Maybe the wand flies in slow motion and he looks and is like, oh, shit. Like, he doesn't say that, obviously.
Yeah.
But, I think you're right.
I want that. I want him to literally be like, ah, shit.
To be honest with you, mate, it would not be dumber than the wand snap. So, oh, shit. I know, or even better, just a really kind of, oh, for fuck's sake.
Like a really casual, oh, fuck. Yeah. I enjoy that. That's good too. I'll take it. So just a point I wanted to, I made a mental note to present the counter to my complaints about Voldemort's death. And I didn't do it at the time, remembered now. Going back in a layer, to whether it's a shame he doesn't find out about Snape. Yeah, there's a few things I'm sad he doesn't find out, and that's why I like in the book we have the big action beat, because you want a big action beat where there's a big duel, and it has that cool thing where Voldemort's very skilled and he's dueling 3 people at once. Slughorn, Kingsley, McGonagall, I think, and then Bellatrix gets all cocky and tries to do the same. And I think she decides she's going to duel 3 people also, and that's when Molly kills Bellatrix. It's like it's a nice little moment because it tells you a lot about Bellatrix. She's trying to impress. She's trying to impress Big Daddy Voldy, and we get the action beat. Then we get Voldemort and Harry sort of just like the confrontation is just them sort of circling each other, trying to figure out where they exchange several lines of dialogue. I don't see any reason why we couldn't have had in this movie something similar because I think that if you've already had the satisfaction of seeing a big fight, I don't mind that the final Harry Voldemort confrontation is quick and the thing that it is in the book. I don't really think anyone would have complained about that. Again, I understand the temptation, but I don't agree. And you could have easily had there a few lines of dialogue that would have really gone a long way to make this movie better, actually. That's a really great opportunity to explain about none of your curses are sticking. Also, hey, Snape was never yours. You lost him the minute you you ignored love as a factor. You use the mistake you made time and time again, Tom. You literally you didn't understand that my mother's love for me was what protected me and took you out the first time, and the reason you're about to lose now is because once again you've not accounted for someone's love for someone else. Your downfall. You think love is our weakness, it's yours. Like that a couple of lines like that, which would take up like a minute of screen time, maybe 2 if you're going to make it a longer exchange, would, I think, actually tie a lot of the stuff in this movie together. And actually, that being missing is endemic of the biggest problem in this film, is that none of the ideas are explored. They're all present if you analyze them and you go, oh, I think that might have been a thing about love, because obviously Snape betrayed Voldemort because of Lily, blah, blah, blah. And you could kind of backwards engineer it if you wanted, and I guess some people have. But it's not in the text. It's barely in the subtext. You've really got to put the puzzle together yourself. And when you do, it probably wouldn't quite make sense because it's missing so many pieces. You'd only get a portion of the picture, and the rest will be confused and blurry or not make sense. So for me, I'm just kind of saying, like, yeah, I think it would have been better if we'd have had that moment. I think both satisfying from a character perspective to see Voldemort realizing his failures before his defeat, but also just from a tying the themes and the plots together kind of way. Because, hey, movie, that's what movies do. That's storytelling. Like, when you get to the end of your story, you have something to say. This movie has nothing to say about anything other than, hey, isn't it really cool that there's some giants fighting some statues? Oh, Harry and Voldemort are going to shoot some coloured light at each other. That's cool, right?
Oh, that again, but again, the logic of it, they've already shot the colours at each other. Anyway, I've ranted about that. Snape's actual death, onion layer one.
Well, no, I just ranted about that. So we'll get your theory, your thoughts on Snape. Otherwise, it's just me talking for 20 minutes straight.
Look, it's beautiful. When has that bothered you before, Dan? It's beautiful.
When I finish an answer and then you ask a question, I do try, if that's what's happening, to counter. I do. I promise. I don't always, because I'm sometimes excited to talk about the thing. But
there was a moment. Not Harry Potter. There was a moment in another Rewind Reviews, and I meant to make a little kind of note of what Rewind Reviews it was, because I can't find it now. But there was a moment where you were like, Chris, what's your opinion on this? And I literally got about 3 words out, and then you answered your own question. It was brilliant. I meant to make a note because it was really funny. Look, I kind of said, I think Ralph Fiennes and Alan Rickman are brilliant in it. I think you can feel that tension of, in the films, you get the sense that actually Voldemort has never really known whether Snape's on his side or not. And they've always had this weird tension. Because let's not forget, pretty sure in the films, this is the first scene of them together. And I think they both played it that way, and that was actually quite effective. I think it's pretty brutal the way it's done, that we just hear the snake attacking, and we sort of see it from Harry, Ron, and Hermione's reaction. I think they could have done more of, I think, have Snape look him in the eye and then literally die looking him in the eye, as opposed to sort of looking away again. I'm pretty sure in the books he puts the tip of his wand up and makes memories, the way we've seen memories consistently made through the films, through the books. I don't see why it needs to be a tear. I don't actually think that adds something. I like the take, again, Alan Rickman is delivering all of it phenomenally. I'm not talking about his choices. I'm talking about the script, the directing choices. Because actually the way he says, take it, take them, take them, is beautiful. It's heart-wrenching. It's brilliant. But yeah, there are tweaks that, I think that he could have done that just as effectively with a wand, and the temple way. But yeah, I think what holds that scene up, to be honest with you, is the acting choices, and then the choice of hearing the actual death itself. So I think it's an effective scene. I think it works.
Have you got your shoes on, Chris?
Yeah.
You got a train ticket? You coming?
Yeah, train tickets in my hand. Wait, hold on. Mate, are we the location on the train ticket. Are we nipping to Nitpick Corner?
Oh, we're nipping to Nitpick Corner. Yeah, we are.
Oh, yeah.
Just quickly, just because it's this scene. This is a genuine, full-on, just nitpick. This makes no difference to the quality of the movie. And it's because this is the sort of thing that's movie logic, fine, whatever. But did you not find it weird, right? That he has tears. He's like, get the tears. They just happen to have a vial, number one. But then, Harry, puts the vial up to his cheek, gets a tear or two. But when he goes up to the pensive, he has, a vial full of liquid. Where did all that liquid come from? Because it wasn't Snape's face. You got a couple of drops, at best. Yet you've got, liquid. You could pour it in. Well, if I gathered tears in a little vial, Chris, and I tipped that vial out into a sink or even a pensive, I'd get a drop.
Memories percolate, they're like popcorn. They burst and they fill the thing. I haven't got any problem with them getting a vial because that comes out the bag, and the bag has been established as just having everything.
Oh, is that where it comes from? It comes from Hermione's little bag? I didn't notice that.
Yeah, Hermione gets out the bag. Yeah.
Sure, fine, that's fine. I like the idea that just in the wizarding world, we all just carry vials around in case someone dies and has really important memories they want to give us.
I'll double check it now, but I'm pretty sure.
Sure, no, that makes sense. Because I remember we've established the beaded bag. If it's the beaded bag, that's fine. Nitpick retracted. But I still stand by that. There's no way he got that much liquid out of his face. It's ridiculous. It's so silly. Because when he gets there, he pours it in. It's it flows. I don't know. Maybe I'm. No, I am nitpicking. Anyway, yeah, I agree with you. I think it is really powerful. I don't like the choice for them to give away the Lily thing there. I've always felt it's more powerful to think back and realize that's what he was talking about.
Yeah, because I'm right in saying that in the book he doesn't say you have your mother's eyes.
No, he just says look at me.
Yeah.
And you don't know why. And it's this weird moment, and then you get to the pensive, and then Harry pours in the memories, gets the vision, and then you sort of for the reader to sort of realize why he asked Harry to look at him. He was staring into his eyes. He was seeing the woman he loved in him, and I think Snape's journey in the books is incredible. The idea of being forced to look after a representation of the woman you love's love for someone else is incredible. What a powerful story Snape has. And I don't think the films completely butcher it. It's there. But I'll say, I think it's way thinner. And I know why, time, constraints, all that jazz. But it is a real shame that the movie has to kind of jump through the Lily Snape stuff real quick to get to, hey, Harry, you're a Horcrux. Because that's the real reason that's even still in the movie. It's not in the movie because we need to know for the story to work that Snape loved Lily. It's almost irrelevant at this point. What we're in the pensive for is to learn that Harry's a Horcrux, which we don't need to do because apparently Harry already knew deep down, and Hermione's known for a while too.
Yeah, is that not in the? Because you referenced that earlier. Is that not in the books then? I can't really remember.
No. So just to clarify, one of the most spectacular chapters in the entire franchise is I think it's called Through the Forest, and basically, by the way, the forest is
good.
By the way, just to clarify as well, the forest is back to being called the Forbidden Forest in this film. Shrug. Not the Dark Forest anymore. All right, fine. Basically Harry goes up separately. He leaves Ron and Hermione in the hall grieving over the dead with everyone else. He sneaks away, goes to the pensive, finds out what he finds out there, realizes he's basically, he's got to die. Knows that if he speaks to any of them, he won't have the strength to do it. So instead, he puts on his cloak, he sneaks out. He doesn't say a word to anyone because he knows they'll talk him out of it and he will listen. And he knows that's not going to happen. as he's heading into the woods, he thinks, geez, Dumbledore left 3 people the task of taking out these Horcruxes. If I die, there's only 2 left to carry on that mission. So he stops on the way out to talk to just one person, and it's Neville. And he says, Neville's like, Harry, you're not turning yourself in, are you? And Harry's like, no, trust me, this is all part of the plan, don't worry. I'm just going to be out of sight for a while, though. This is going to sound a bit weird, but you've got to take me on this and kill the snake. What, the snake? Yeah. If you get a chance, kill the snake. Okay. Everything all right, Harry? Like, they have this moment where they stop, and he's like, are you sure you're okay? And there's a pause, and you just know he's having the thing he was trying to avoid, that doubt, that moment of, I'm going to scream, I'm going to yell, I'm going to make them stop me. And he even sees Ginny, actually, in the grounds, and wants to talk to her, and get her attention, let her know what he's doing. But he swallows it and says, nope, all good, Neville, promise you. I'm going to be out of sight for you. You just got to trust me. Go for the snake. Cloak on, into the woods he goes. This whole idea that he just goes and talks to Ron and Hermione, and Hermione always knew he was a Horcrux. It's fucking horseshit. How? On what grounds? Nonsense. What does that change add to anything? What does having him have a conversation with Ron and Hermione add to anything? Couldn't we have had the dramatic moment of Harry with the cloak on, sneaking out of the forest, wondering how many fucking beats his heart has left?
Or some Ginny shit. Have him look at Ginny, or...
Sure.
Because in the books he thinks of Ginny just before he dies, and chuck some Ginny stuff in, man.
Fine. But I fail to understand the thinking behind those lines. Because one, it's not believable and it does not make sense that they've known all along. Right? That'd be like, imagine how unsatisfying it would be, right? If at the end of Knives Out, the evidence finally crops up that confirms who the killer is. And Daniel Craig goes, well, I knew all along, actually. I was just waiting for the right time to say it. That's not satisfying, is it?
That has happened in some of those sort of old
maybe.
Yeah.
We've just revealed that Harry needs to die. This idea that he's kind of known all along, and that Hermione has known all along, doesn't add anything to the story. It just takes. It just hurts it. And I cannot, for the life of me, understand the thinking. It doesn't save time. It doesn't save anything.
I think the thinking of the scene is a goodbye scene between Ron, Hermione, and Harry, but it doesn't need to have Hermione actually knowing in it.
Oh, God. Yeah, I see what he's done. You're right. It's exactly that. He wanted the goodbye scene, but he didn't want the goodbye scene to have the exposition. Harry explaining he's about to die. So they can cut to the goodbye quickly. Everyone just knows.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's so much dumber than I even thought.
Because you know what? There's no evidence of anyone knowing.
No, and it's just, if they knew, they would have, all these plans would have been different. All their choices would have been different.
Yeah. I, two things. One related to what you just said. The other thing I nearly said earlier, and then thought of an explanation, but just to give it here, because obviously what's so great about the kill the snake Neville scene in the books is Neville finds out about that. Neville isn't told to kill the snake in this film, and I was going to level that as a criticism, and then I realised the snake is attacking Ron and Hermione.
Right.
That's probably why Neville kills the snake, but still makes it even dumber.
Yeah, I as a cost-cutting measure, as a time-saving measure, I don't think it's the worst idea. The execution is cheap and weird, but the idea that Neville's moment of gallantry comes at saving another fellow student or students, that's fine. I don't mind that he kills the snake almost by accident. Like, it's not as good as him doing it with purpose, dealing his blow to Voldemort's plans, even if he doesn't fully understand why. He just knows the snake needs to die to help with Harry's plan. But I prefer it that he has intent, but I also don't hate this simpler version of it where he's just protecting a fellow student from a big snake. That's fine. The execution is horrible because and I don't know if this is in the script or if this is in the editing. I would love to see the shooting draft of this script. The actual shooting draft, not the one that they publish after the movies come out that kind of is designed to match the movie. The one they actually went to set with to see the sequence of events as it was, because I'm not sure Neville slicing the snake happens quite so close to Harry and Voldemort's like final confrontation. I think in the movie, in the script, there's a chance those two things were a little further apart, allowing you some ability to not come to the only conclusion of Neville's the one who kills Voldemort, and then you're left with the Harry Voldemort fight, which would be a little bit separate. But the fact that I think in editing they've spliced those two things closer together. That's my theory.
And I think that's a mistake because, as we've discussed, the interpretation it gives someone that doesn't know. The other thing is, I've just checked. I referenced earlier a scene where Trelawney and Sprout cover a body. There is, if you pause it on Amazon Prime, the cast listing is that it's Padma Patil that is the body, which is interesting because you don't really see her face to clarify that, and Padma Patil survives in the books, so another interesting choice. And again, I reiterate, and obviously Padma Patil and Lavender Brown have been in the movies, but because we have shots like the third film where they're in the dormitory and stuff like that, we've seen Seamus and Dean Thomas more. So just if you're going to make it a pupil that didn't die in the books, make it them, because I think that would mean more to the audience than two characters that we haven't seen as much as Dean and Seamus.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah. Do you have any other notes before questions? We haven't done questions. God,
I don't even have the questions written down in front of me. Does this movie work as a story on its own? No.
No, it's the third act of a 3-part story. No, it doesn't work on its own as a story.
No, and I think even if you treat it as the third act of the thing, it still doesn't work because it's not telling a story. This movie isn't telling a story. This movie is giving us a series of attempting to do a series of character beats. So like, here's Neville's hero moment, here's Harry's hero moment, without any real understanding of what those stories actually mean for those characters and why they're where they are and what they're choosing to do. It's a series of things strung together with loose, poor logic, and at no point does anyone's choices make sense. So cool. Is there any? There's no school in our school movie. Use of magic, bad.
Oh, so bad. We
have a combination of wand guns and shooting coloured light at each other. Where in a giant wizard battle are people flinging rocks, rising the ground up, shooting lightning, have creating swarms of of birds and firing them at someone. The other person turns them into water and then fires them back as icicles. Where is all the interesting magic happening? Because it's not here. If I'm the guy that they say, hey, we need to design a battle of Hogwarts, I'm like, oh, a bunch of wizards fighting each other? Cool. I'm gonna have a bunch of insane shit happening. I'm gonna have all the insane shit happening in the background.
Yeah, they literally just focused on the giants and the Death Eaters. And, that Horace Slughorn, doing a massive Patronus is quite cool. As we've discussed, the bridge scene is excellent, but in general, but they're not magic. Well, the Patronus is, but it's magic we've already seen before in another movie. So, yeah, in terms of the question, there's not a lot of great magic in this movie at all.
No. Yeah, and the other question was the school one, which obviously there's no school in the school movie. What was the other question? I'm missing one of the questions. I feel like there were 4 questions.
What, even when 4 originally, or 4 even when we got rid of is Daniel Radcliffe acting?
Let's do that one. Is Daniel Radcliffe any good yet? Yeah, he's pretty good.
You know what? I'm sorry. I think he's better in Order of the Phoenix with a better script.
Oh yeah, but any actor will be better with a better script. I mean, that's that's not necessarily his fault, is it?
No, I know. No, yeah, true.
You give someone a shit script, can't expect magic. Opening shot of the movie we haven't talked about. Snape looking down on Hogwarts. It's an interesting idea for a shot, but a competent film might have used it as a way to signal his importance to this story, or his oppression of Hogwarts. Well, it's just a really random shot of Snape at Hogwarts. Otherwise,
you know what was weird? Later, when they have the shot of the kids walking through Hogwarts to line up to be told that Harry's kicking about, I was like, oh, did we start this movie with a flash forward? Like, when that scene happens later in the movie, I was literally like, oh, was that what the beginning was? It was just like flashing forward to that. Weird.
Yeah, it might have been.
Wouldn't it have been way more effective if the opening shot was we've seen the Great Hall at dinner time. We've seen cheerful, bright colours. Would it not have been better to have a really muted Great Hall? Everyone's eating really downly. You've maybe got Seamus, or you've got kids with bruises. McGonagall looks pissed off, but she has to be there. Like, if you're gonna do a Snape's in charge of the school scene, why not do that? Why not do the Hogwarts is fucking miserable now, as opposed to Snape's watching assembly?
because Chris, that would be telling us some sort of story.
Why did we need Voldemort and the Elder Wand again? As a reminder? As a previously on? What?
Previously on Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. Yep.
Yeah.
Hey, Chris, is this a good movie? That's the last question.
No. No, it's not a good movie.
No, yeah. Okay, I do have a couple of notes we should probably take a look at. Why did we not have Harry explain to Griphook that he's not in it for personal gain? He's like, I want to rob Gringotts, and no further context. He doesn't try to defend it. He doesn't say, just so you know, I'm in it to try and stop Voldemort. Because the easy win with Griphook is, hey, guess what? And this is what they do in the book. Voldemort, not a fan of goblins. You're lesser folk to him. Maybe help me stop him?
I think they kind of cover that with that weird, lots of interesting things in Bellatrix in the vaults of Gringotts, especially in Bellatrix's vault. Hey, I viewed that dialogue as, there's something in Bellatrix's vault that we want to get. So I didn't feel that as much because of that dialogue.
Okay. Interesting.
I'm not saying it's good. I'm just saying that's why I didn't
feel
that.
All right. How did we feel about how dare you stand where he stood?
It's just not good dialogue, Dan.
No. And obviously the scene is already broken because he's forcing the issue. Sneaks into the school.
I think what do we think? Well, it's just even the McGonagall Snape fight. Like, again, two brilliant actors doing the best with what they've got, but they're just snapping sparks at each other. It's cool when he jumps through the window and flies away. It's a cool effect, but it would have been better if they were doing some actual fucking spells.
Yeah, because I think that's another one of those, like, in the book, like, highlight moments where it's like it's a really cool magical back and forth of some description. I can't remember what it involves, but but yeah, agreed. Yeah, obviously I've got plenty of notes here about why sneak into the school and then not try to stealthily find the diadem for as long as possible. Why, like, intentionally trigger a war that will just get everyone killed and put a timer on how long you've got there. Yeah, I'll continue to... I've got the notes about the kiss being unearned. Go on, sorry.
Do you think we waste time with the ghost of Thingamajig Ravenclaw? Because it's not actually... It doesn't add anything to this movie. Is it not just, there's the diadem... Where could it be? Well, where would you go to hide something? Oh, shit, it's probably right here. Like, I love the Luna stuff, because, I just love Luna in these movies. And I love the Harry Potter, you listen to me. Like, I love that. But it's kind of a waste of time, the conversation with the ghost, isn't it?
Yeah, really good point. I've written something similar that, like, Rowena Ravenclaw. No, it's not Rowena Ravenclaw, is it? It's her daughter, whose name I've escaped.
Yeah, something like that.
That whole conversation with her is kind of pointless doesn't really add anything to any of the story. It's there as a plot device and nothing more. And you feel that when you're watching the scene, when you're slogging through the scene. Yeah, I think it would be better if you used that time to have Luna yell at Harry into putting his thinking cap on properly and actually doing the math, and him going, oh, yeah, it'll be where all things that are hidden in Hogwarts end up, which is the room for requirement. Yeah. That's probably more powerful than having him do the whole history chat with Rowena, because, no one cares. It doesn't add anything to anything. At this point we've skipped we've gone to so much effort to not deal with where Voldemort got the items and what their value was to him. Because for those who don't know, in the book he's looking for he wants each Horcrux, one of 4 of the Horcruxes each, to be an item from a founder of Hogwarts. He never gets one from Gryffindor, unless you count Harry. He gets the Hufflepuff's cup, Ravenclaw's diadem, and of course from Slytherin he has the locket.
Yeah, because there's some nice dialogue about how Tom Riddle manipulated her, but it's just the ship has sailed on that. You've not gone down that route, so don't bother including it here. Why is it here?
Yeah, if you've not established the importance of Helena Hufflepuff's cup, then I don't know why we need to do Rowena Ravenclaw's diadem in that detail. Strange. And
then if you remove that scene, you've got room for that Ron Hermione stairs moment, and there's a deleted scene where Tonks appears for the battle, and Remus and her hug, and he says, "You should be with Teddy," and she says, "He'll snore all night like his father," or something like that. And the movie would be better with that in.
Yep, so. Agreed. Or, like I said, use the time to extend the Harry-Luna dialogue so that she's the one that prompts him to think it through and realise that it's probably in the room of requirement. I did like
that. I'm sort of assuming that would be instead of the current Harry, someone that's dead scene. Yes. So I don't... Yeah.
I did like Harry throwing the Marauders map at Ron and Hermione and being like, if you need to find me later, this is this. That was clever. That was a good use of it. I don't believe the Marauders map plays anything into this battle in the book, and that's actually, now I think about it, kind of ludicrous, because what a useful thing in a battle. I think actually, to be fair, there's a period of time when Harry doesn't know where Ron and Hermione are. He's looking for them, and he does scan the map and can't find them, and it's because they're in the chamber. But it doesn't play into the war in any other way, and I think that's a really neat way to do it. What was with the visual effect of the wand cracking? What was the point of that, Chris?
I don't know. I didn't know. Well, when Voldemort's doing the spell to break the enchantments on the castle?
Yeah, they do a long weird shot where they go along the Elder Wand as it cracks.
What's
that supposed to be telling me?
That's in the film what makes Voldemort realise the wand is not truly at his command, and he therefore that's what leads him to the path of, I'm not the true master of the Elder Wand, Snape must be.
Right. Okay, fair enough. Would you have liked some setup of any kind prior to this of Neville and Luna?
No, I would have just liked some...
Or are you happy for it to just be a sudden thing that Neville blurts out? And we'd leave it?
Like you said earlier, that's fine. I'm happy with him just suddenly blurting it out. I would have liked to have seen some payoff. So rather than setup, I'd have liked payoff.
Sure. Well, it's always missing one or the other, isn't it? Steve Close script.
I'd have also liked more. Oh, we should finish. Yeah, but before we do Trib, there's another big thing that we've not that we've literally not touched upon. But let's see if it's in your notes.
Yeah, it might be. So, quick question. This is a question just about both the book and the film, really. In both, Voldemort uses Nagini to kill Snape. Is that super dumb? I know it's dramatic visually. But if Voldemort's idea is someone else killed the last owner of the wand, not me. The whole thing with Snape is he sent Snape thinking, well, Snape's killing Dumbledore on my orders. That makes me the master of the Elder Wand, right?
Yeah.
But he finds out that's not how it works. He then commands the snake to kill Snape, and it's done differently in both, because in this one he just tells the snake to go do it, and the snake attacks. In the book, the snake is in a weird magical ball to protect it because it's his last Horcrux, and he knows that. And then he moves the ball so Snape is inside the ball with the snake, and then the snake attacks. He like traps Snape in that very small tight space with the snake, and the snake attacks him then. Snake either way though, is he being a dumbass?
He's creating a plot reason so that Snape can talk to Harry, but as opposed to dying by the curse. But yeah, it is dumb. Maybe because maybe the logic is he's commanding the snake to do it, so Snape dies at his hand.
Yeah, but that was the whole thing with Dumbledore. He thought him commanding Snape to do it, killing Dumbledore, would do that, and he's now found out that didn't work.
Well, he doesn't. Maybe it's that he doesn't view, animals. He doesn't view other than pure blood wizards. He thinks you're lesser creatures. Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard because I don't
know. It's a weird nitpick, and it's not a big deal, but it's just something I've always wondered, both from the book version and this version.
Yeah, but I guess because the alternative is he slits his throat with a spell, maybe.
Yeah, all right, fine.
Maybe he does that, Snape spell. The spell that maybe the way to do it is the Snape spell that makes you have loads of slashes in your skin and bleed out. Maybe Voldemort uses that on him because he needs to leave him to die so Voldemort can, have his moment with Harry. So maybe that's a more poetic way of doing it.
I guess so.
That is still fine. Voldemort doing it.
Fine. Yeah. Okay, last bit. Two things. I've got two things that we think we should still talk about we haven't covered yet. One is Snape was there the night Lily died? Question mark? Cradled her corpse? Question mark?
Yeah, If you're, I'm all right with that. Like, if you're not gonna, I mean, it's weird the shot of like Harry stood there watching, but if you don't have the time to devote to him crying to Dumbledore, and you need a visual shorthand you can cut to while there's dialogue from other scenes, it's for me that's not the most egregious thing the movie changes or does.
Okay, maybe not the most egregious, but do you not think that raises a few like practical questions? Like,
yeah, for sure.
Because was he just like down the road? Like he was just he travelled there with Voldemort. Voldemort goes in, does all the murdering, and then he wanders in afterwards and is like, "Oh, murdering has happened. I'm so sad about this." Or
it's not beyond the realm of possibility that he'd have followed him, given that he knew what he was going to do and loved Lily.
So he followed him to go witness Lily's death.
Well, maybe he got there too late or something.
So he didn't follow him so such as he kind of darted there when he realised what was happening and was too late.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then, like,
maybe
he just fucked off, left Harry there, because there's no way Hagrid came across Snape at that scene. Because Hagrid obviously showed... No. Hagrid's the next one that shows up, pulls Harry out of the rubble, right? That's the notion.
Maybe Snape alerted Dumbledore, which led to Hagrid turning up. Who knows? But, yeah. In the film version,
I just feel like that's a really weird. Like it's one of those things that like maybe it's a cool visual, but you just sort of like, wow, what have we've raised a lot more questions than we've answered with this.
Yeah, but
about
I think
what happened that night.
It's also a shorthand to like link Harry and Snape more intrinsically in the film. Like, I think that doesn't bother me that much. Okay. That's fine.
Yeah. And then the final thing we haven't talked about, to my knowledge, the epilogue.
Yeah, that's what I realised. I was like, we've not talked about 19 years later at all.
Yeah. All right.
I really like, we need to age Ginny. Let's give her 80s hair. Okay. Fine. We need to age Emma Watson. Let's do nothing. Emma Watson just looks the same age. Like, okay.
So there's something about this in the trivia. Basically, they shot this scene again because the first time they shot it, they gave them all really heavy makeup for aging. And apparently it looked all weird and wrong, and they didn't like it, so they shot it again more naturally. And to be fair, I mean, how many years have passed since the movie? When was the movie? 2011?
Yeah. So 10. Well, 10, it wasn't it the big. It was the big 10th anniversary last year. So 10. Oh, so 10 years since Philosopher's Stone. So
Well, it wouldn't be 10
since.
No,
No, sorry,
10...
20. Last year was 20 years since Philosopher's Stone. So it's probably about 10 years since Deathly Hallows.
Yeah, it was 2011, so we're 11 years on. Emma Watson still pretty much looks like that. I don't see her changing massively in the next 8 years, so that's probably fine. Yeah.
Bonnie Wright doesn't have a weird 80s hairstyle though, and like...
No, look, it's what happens when you age up.
Age up children.
Children. It never looks quite right. I think it's passable. I think it feels to me like they put a bunch of focus on Daniel Radcliffe because he gets all the close-ups, because he talks to Severus James.
His is probably the least egregious, actually. To be fair.
Yeah, I feel like they went like, let's make his look real good. Like let's focus on that and like make sure that's like spot on because he's gonna have conversations with people where he's gonna be in close up and all that stuff. So I feel like they kind of deliberately did that. I guess it's fine because it just tells you they all went on to be happy, but it doesn't communicate any other like what information do we learn about it? I guess we learn that Harry has come to terms with Snape and now understands that Snape was actually the bravest man he ever knew. Which I guess is like supposed to be a payoff from the moment in the previous movie when 2 movies ago when he called Snape a coward.
Yeah, that's probably all in the film. That's probably all it does, to be fair. And it's such a shame because one of my things with this, I think there should be more Harry and Ginny in this film. And I quite like the moment where he goes to speak on the stairs and she just says, "I know." But you could have done something sweet with them here, like have them look at each other romantically.
They do get the moment in the Room of Requirement, though, don't they? Oh, not the Room of Requirement. Wherever Harry first turns up after coming out the portrait. And he's talking
I meant to say that actually. That is another. Are you ready for me to pay it another compliment?
Please.
One example of humour working in this film is definitely she hasn't seen me for months and she's barely looking at me. What am I, Frankie? First year. I'm her brother, and Seamus saying, "Yeah, but she's got plenty of those. There's only one Harry." Like that, yes. I thought was genuinely, and then Rupert Grint's "Shut up, Seamus." I thought that was genuinely very funny.
Yeah, that's another one of those like glimmers of like what made some of these movies good, and one of the things that Steve Kloves did get right, which was interactions between these kids when it was like like designed to be kind of like fun, frivolous, or like it's just kids being kids or whatever. He did genuinely seem to have a knack for that almost. I do think he wrote kids being kids well mostly, and I think I think that moment that scene does a couple of things. I heard somebody saying, "Oh, maybe even it was us. Was it us? Did we say we? I either heard a review at some point." Where someone said they should have cut that scene, just get straight to the Harry snuck into the school, he shows up in the assembly, get to it sort of thing. And I can't remember.
No, I don't think that was us.
No, okay, so I've heard that somewhere. Thinking about it now though, like,
and now to clarify, we've criticised the way he steps out from the kids, but we've criticised the way he appears, but I don't believe either of us said cut that scene because that I'm glad you brought that up. Because that's genuinely one of my favourite scenes in the movie.
Yeah, I would. I mean, God, I mean, it's it's not a high bar to clear, to be honest. But it is one of the better scenes in the film for sure. And I do think it's one of the scenes that does something for the characters, like showing Ginny's concern for Harry by having her turn up the way she does, fretting, panicking, like, and then jumping into his arms. That really does. And it does kind of solidify for me what they were going for here, because we've been questioning what their intent was with Harry and Ginny. They never made it official. They never made it unofficial. They never gave them the breakup or the get-together as sort. They were just kind of a thing, but subtly and weird in a way that was never clear to the audience. This makes it clear that they've kind of basically been together the whole time, but like he had to go off do his Voldemort.
Yeah, that's merging, because she doesn't... I can check, but she doesn't jump into his arms in the Room of Requirement. She jumps into his arms later on the stairs. And like I say, I like the stairs thing. I like both of those scenes. I guess I just wanted a bit more of them.
Don't they embrace when Ron makes his joke? Aren't they embracing when Ron says that?
No, they're just staring at each other. That's what's so funny about it. I'll double check now. I've got the scene in front of me, but
yeah, okay. That's not how I remember it. That's funny. It's weird how your mind can sometimes rewrite these things. Because I was pretty sure that she came in. They do. I remember they have a beat where they are staring, but then my memory is that she gives him a big hug, and while they're hugging, that's when Ron makes his little crack.
No, I checked. No, the crack is definitely staring, because that reminds me. There's another really funny bit. This whole scene is very good, and I guess it shows the magic is these kids all together. It's the whole we something's hidden in the castle. What is it? We don't know. Where is it? We don't know, or something like that. And then Harry goes, I realise it's not much to go on. And Seamus goes, it's nothing to go on.
Yes.
That was also very funny.
It's a good exchange. It's similar to the book. Well, actually, this kind of fixes a nitpick from the book I have, because one thing I do hate in the book is that at this point, so the whole reason Harry is keeping, so in the book there's a whole thing about keeping the Horcruxes secret. Harry's not to tell anyone about the Horcruxes, because the minute Voldemort knows Harry knows about the Horcruxes, he's going to go out, gather them all, keep them by his side. They become impossible to get at. So it's only Harry, Hermione, and Ron are allowed to know. There were 4 with Dumbledore, but Dumbledore's now dead. And he has told them explicitly to tell absolutely no one about the Horcruxes. Explicitly. The reason being is that once Tom Riddle knows, the game over. We don't have the luxury of going around and finding these things that he's left around anymore. In the book, after the Gringotts, very much similar to the film, Voldemort then realizes that Harry's been attacking Horcruxes. And like in the movie and in the book, they do this the same. Harry gets a bunch of information by being in Voldemort's mind. Voldemort thinks about all the Horcruxes and where they are hidden. Harry gets images and details, and he realizes there's one at Hogwarts, and that's why he goes to Hogwarts. Battle of Hogwarts commences. It's the same. But what happens in the book, which drives me absolutely insane every time I hear it, every time I get there, is the reason in the book that scene is a lot of like, we've no information, is because Harry's refusing to tell them what it is. He's like, we can't tell you. We're not allowed to tell you what we're after, but it's important. And I'm going, mate, the reason you weren't allowed to tell anyone is because you didn't want Voldemort to know what you were after. He knows now. You are very free to tell everyone. And I always read through that scene like mildly frustrated because it doesn't make any sense. Here, it's just that they don't have the information, and that's 1, cleaner, 2, funnier, and 3, like, simpler, just like in general, in terms of like, it doesn't come with all this insane weird weight of a plot that no longer needs to be a plot. Like, there's no reason he needs to be keeping a secret in the book anymore. And it's really irritating. So yeah, I prefer this movie version. So there you go. We found a scene we like. Thumbs up movie on that one.
We would love the room of requirement stuff. Do
we have Draco in the epilogue? I can't remember.
Yes, Draco and his Wi-Fi. Yeah, Harry and him don't look at each other, which is a bit like, if they're not going to look at each other, just keep it a bit, vague by having the, Draco just walk off. I think
because in the book doesn't Draco like give Harry like a little nod, like a little like
Yeah, and they don't. They cut that from the film. I'll come back to Draco. We haven't really
talked about that
the entire scene.
At all.
Harry,
we haven't talked about their arc at all.
What?
Like the Malfoys.
Oh, it's ridiculous. I made a reference to them just running away and it being shit.
But we haven't actually chatted about whether it works. Well, we'll come back to that. Do your bit.
I've got a question on that. So, I've just rewatched the whole room of requirement scene. Harry and Ginny only ever stare at each other. There's no hug or anything.
Okay.
Neither of them.
My brain invented that.
Do you think the movie, not the books, the movie, with how upset Draco was at the end of Half-Blood Prince, with how scared he is of the fire, with the fact that they've kept in his mum saying, is Draco alive? Do you think the movie is crying out for Draco to have a redemption arc? Because I think it might be.
Yes.
And apparently a scene was in one of the behind-the-scenes videos. There's a clip of what looks like Draco in the courtyard throwing Harry a wand.
Ooh, see, something small like that would be nice.
I just think the movie, not the books, but I think the movies are planting the scenes for. I think there's maybe it's how charming Tom Felton is on screen. But if I'm involved in these movies, I'm tempted to go, I know it's different, but fuck it.
You know what's funny? Well, because the book kind of does it, but not in a direct way. The book kind of does it in a they're no longer on Voldemort's side. They're not really on Harry's side either, but they're looking out for themselves now, and that's that. You know, the movie does one extra thing that I think makes it where you cry out for that. The movie points out. Remember last week I said like, oh, it's kind of ambiguous what Malfoy is thinking in the manor. You know, is he intentionally being, you know, unsure of who Harry is, even though he knows full well who he is, because he's trying to protect him, you know, because he's having doubts about his choices and getting people killed, and like it's all, you know, gotten a bit real for him now. You know, it's not him at school anymore, you know, ranting on about the Dark Lord coming back and, you know, all the Mudbloods are going to be in for it now sort of thing, which is what he says in the chamber, you know, and you know, it's like, you know, that's the moment that's implied in that, but it's not clarified. And I said, like, do we need to clarify where these characters are at? Like, I remember criticizing, like, the lack of the tracking of that, but to the credit of the script and the movie here, they have Harry question it in this movie, meaning that vagueness, that ambiguity was intentional because the intent was to play it off here. And they have Harry directly ask Draco, back at the manor, did you intentionally help me? And I can't remember what Malfoy's response is, but that is definitely not in the book. And that is maybe the difference, because that really does lay out that Harry suspects there's maybe some good in Malfoy. There's some doubts in Malfoy. Which that is not in the book at all. So actually, I think
that again, another example of they plant that seed. Then they plant the redemption arc seed. Pay it off.
Right.
Why are you
pay
not
it off or
off?
don't put it in at all. It's not. That's what's so frustrating. They're either paying off stuff they've never set up, or they're setting up stuff they never pay off, and it's just constant. I can barely think of anything that both gets the setup and the payoff. I really don't understand this kind of structure to storytelling. It doesn't make sense. Horrible. So yeah, the epilogue. Give him the nod at the very least. I think in the epilogue, let him nod.
Yeah, but again, I think the epilogue is kind of like what you were saying about King's Cross. If you write that scene out as it is, and you take out everything the films have made not relevant, that's what you're left with.
Right. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, absolutely spot on. That's true. Also, can I just... And I think I've seen this online, so I'm definitely the only person that's thought this. Can you imagine, like, Harry and Ginny have their first kid, and he's like, Albus Severus. And she's like, oh, that's sweet. And then the second kid, and she's like, maybe we should call him Fret. And he's like, we're going to call you something Luna. I can't remember what the second kid is called, but it's like James Luna or something like that. He names him after Luna Lovegood.
Oh, does he? Well, I think James is first. I think. I might be wrong.
Oh, okay, whatever it is, these kids are named after his dad, his mum, his teachers, and some girl he knew at school.
Yeah, so apparently... Oh, yeah, it's James Sirius Potter, Albus Severus Potter, and then Lily Luna Potter.
Right. My question is, at what point does Ginny go, Harry, let me get the fucking name Fred in here somehow? Like...
Especially, well, not just Fred, but, like, Lily...
Yeah.
Like, Harry's mum's there. Luna's alive, right, in the book, so why is it not Molly? Lily Molly Potter, like that even like is you know, like sound wise flows better. Maybe not. There's the alliteration of Lily Luna. That's so weird. Why is it not Lily Molly?
I've always thought, like, and this is a book problem too. I don't want anyone to misunderstand here that I am accusing the movies of doing this. This is very much they've just borrowed the name, but I always found that weird. Why is there no representation at all, like for Ginny's side of the family here?
Unless, hold on,
Fred though. Why is Fred's like Fred died fighting Voldemort? Why are we not honouring him? If we're playing the game, if we're going to honour all of the people who died Voldemort through these kids' names, then you missed a trick somewhere there.
Yeah, because in my head, I'm like, well, maybe Ron and Hermione got there. No, Rose Granger Weasley and a son, Hugo Granger Weasley. I guess we don't know their middle names, maybe that's suggesting. But they had a daughter first. So James was definitely born... Like, James was the opportunity to say... Fred. To put Fred in the name.
Yeah. And the thing is, I wouldn't be questioning that. I don't think they need to put Fred's name in their kid's name. But if they've done that with every other, big, important, heroic character to their experiences as children, the lack of representation for Fred in that is weird to me. And it always has been.
It should be James. It should be James Fred Potter. James Frederick Potter is what James should be called.
Yeah. So there you go. Justice for Fred.
Cool. Are we ready, Dan? Are we ready to do it?
Let's do it, Chris.
Let's trim it up!
A very exhausted and tired and frustrated Dan is now about to go through the trivia for the final movie. It's worth noting, the final movie, of course, was shot simultaneously with the first one of these two parts. So there's not a huge amount of trivia. So some of this, I'm not going to lie, scraping the bottom of the barrel. But don't worry about it. It's all good. It's fine. It's happy times. There is some interesting stuff in here. And I've got at the end a special piece of trivia that's why is this trivia? Who wants to know this and why? According to Tom Felton, Voldemort awkwardly hugging Draco was not a scripted moment, but an improvisation by Fiennes. Felton's reaction of stopping dead in his tracks, not knowing what to do, is 100% genuine, and I love it. It's great.
Can I just say, I've Googled it, and it seems that, the Quora, the Reddit, all the places that answer stuff, is just people shouting because George would have done it.
Yeah, maybe. I guess.
Basically saying George would have named his kid
Fred. And
Fred.
Theoretically, George is older. Maybe George got married sooner.
Yeah,
Fine.
That is. I wonder if it is canon that he had kids and what they were called.
Have you heard what JK said about the Luna stuff? The Luna Neville stuff, by the way.
Sorry, say that again?
Did you hear what JK said about the Luna and Neville situation?
No.
So she sort of was asked, again, I don't want to criticize her for having thoughts on what will have happened outside of the books, because she just is constantly bombarded with questions about what happened to this character? When did this happen? What was this? Tell me more about the world. So this isn't a dig at her for that, but she was asked specifically because previously she'd been asked about Neville, and she said he grows up to be the professor of phobology at Hogwarts and is married to Hannah Abbott. Another, kid from their year. Yeah. People went, well, the movies put him with Luna. In the movies, does he grow up to marry Luna? And she was like, I think Luna is more of a summer tryst that doesn't kind of work out in the end, and he ends up with Hannah Abbott, which I'm fine with. Obviously, none of this is in the movie, but I just thought it was interesting.
Yeah. So apparently, George Weasley's children are Fred Weasley II, Fred Weasley II, and Roxanne Weasley.
Says who?
Google. So I assume JK said it at some point.
Okay, fine. I was going to say, that was my main thing, was like, where did that come from? Okay, fine.
Well, it comes up on Google as like one of those, it's its own thing. So I assume, again, I don't know.
Yeah, it might have been confirmed in Pottermore, or it could have been confirmed by JK when she answered one of the 10,000 questions she gets asked about this stuff.
Yeah. Hold on, I've got a Quora thing here.
Oh, she's been in the press a lot this week. It's quite funny. I'm not going to go into it, but we're recording in late August, early September. And she's just released a new novel, and it's fucking hilarious.
Oh yeah, because sorry, I've not read the strike books, but did you know? So I'm trying to look it up, but people are basically distracted by the fact that apparently the person George marries is Angela Johnson, because obviously that's Fred's ex, so they find it weird.
Wait, George marries Angelina Johnson, even though that's who Fred went to the ball with?
Yeah, apparently just his ex. Like, so people are just like, apparently they had two kids, Fred and Roxanne. So I haven't got a source, but I do remember I have read that before. So that sort of seems to be distracting the narrative over what his children are called.
I love it when shit like that happens by accident. I remember in this won't mean a lot to you, but if you track the names, you'll understand. In Dragon Ball, there's a character called Krillin, and in the anime, they gave in a when they converted the manga into anime, they added stuff because the TV show is longer than the comic strip essentially. So they added a non-canon-ish plot where he has a girlfriend called Marin. Unbeknownst to them, the creator of the manga that they're basing it on was much further ahead and wrote that Krillin has a daughter with another character and names that daughter Marin. Right. Complete coincidence, but how it plays when you watch the anime is that Krillin names his daughter after an ex. Because they kept that name too. It's great. It's one of my favourite things. When you watch the anime, it's like he has this ex-girlfriend called Marin, and then it's like, a few years later he has a daughter. What's her name? Marin. It's just weird. It's very weird.
That's awesome. Anyway, so Fred, basically George gets the name Fred, is what we've established.
Fine. There we go. Cool. So the fight between McGonagall and Snape was considered to be changed into Harry against Snape. Instead, this idea was scrapped by J.K. herself, who stepped in and insisted the duel should involve the same characters as in the novel, as she saw it as a key moment for McGonagall. I would agree. Correct.
I'd agree with
JK
that, yeah.
was correct in that example. When Harry, Ron, and Hermione enter Gringotts near the beginning, Hermione has taken Polyjuice Potion to disguise herself as Bellatrix. Before the scene was shot... Oh, this is really cool. Before they shot the scene, they rehearsed it with Emma Watson in the role and had Helena Bonham Carter watch what she did so that she would know how to make the choices that Emma Watson would make, pretending to be Bellatrix. So that kind of means the final scene is Helena Bonham Carter acting like Watson, who was in turn trying to be Bellatrix.
I do think, but like we've there's been some jabs thrown at Helena Bonham Carter in this podcast series, but she's great in that scene where she is Hermione pretending to be her. It's good.
Yeah, look, here's the thing with her. Like, she has that one thing she seems to really like doing, or maybe people just keep giving her those roles. I don't know, but every now and then you go, oh yeah, she can act. Like, she can act. She's a very capable actress. I don't like. Yeah. I don't want to take that away from her, but like, yeah, in these movies, she's just doing that Tim Burton thing. It's like they cast her and went, hey, you know that thing you do for Tim Burton? Can you just do that for us? And it's not great. Yeah. And it's not a particularly interesting interpretation of Bellatrix. But you're right. In that scene, she is fantastic. She does manage to capture the Hermione of it all.
Yeah, and it's as we've just come across in describing it. There's layers to that, and I think she covers them all. Mm-hmm. Just so you know, Dan, I've gone down the rabbit hole slightly here. Just to clear
because
up
like every time I just like all I'm thinking now is like, how if we stop between every piece of trivia to discover more about what happened to the Weasleys after this, I think we're going to be here all night.
No, but this is relevant. This is relevant because it answers someone may put it in the comments because we specifically brought it up with the Lily Luna thing. Molly Weasley too. Is the elder daughter of Percy and Audrey Weasley. So Percy names his kid after Molly. She also has a child named Lucy, and then Bill and Fleur have Victory, Dominique, and Louis or Louis. So because I think Fleur's French. All
right. Well then, now Chris, you've got to get looking because I want to find out who named their child after Arthur. Where's Arthur?
Neville, actually. Neville and Hannah. No, I don't know.
I'm assuming Bill or Charlie, maybe, but I'm just saying.
Let's assume Arthur's
in a world where apparently it's law that you name your children after someone who is important to you or a parental figure. I need the answer to that.
Look, I was answering the question. Why?
Well, I've asked a new question.
I still don't really know why it was Luna, but because I tell you what, I'm not being funny. Hermione would be better than Luna, but let's get on with the rest of the truth.
Yes. In every single shot in which Voldemort and Bellatrix Lestrange appear together, she is always on his right-hand side, as a reference to Ant and Dec. No, I'm kidding. That part is made up. No, it's apparently the traditional position held by the most loyal and trusted follower. They're on their, the right-hand man, as it were. So that's a little nod to that. Pretty cool. That was a very specific British reference. If you didn't get it, just Google Ant and Dec and find out. I'm not going to explain that now. Just not. When Harry goes into the room of requirement in the bottom left-hand corner, you can see the knight that Ron rides in Sorcerer's Stone. There's also some Cornish pixies present that were set loose by Lockhart in Secrets, and the set, generally speaking, is made out of props from all of the movies. Apparently, they had about 72 containers worth of props, and they just filled the room with them, which is, I think, cool, but also, I think that's maybe a little too much, because while that's a really good way to create the effect of a room full of old stuff, a lot of that stuff, the whole point of that room is it's things that were hidden, by students and people that live, in Hogwarts. So, who's hidden the chess piece? Did McGonagall go I need to get rid of these? After the whole philosophy, it's a nice nod, but does that being there kind of weakens the logic of the room of requirement? But fine, whatever. It is what it is. Harry's lightning bolt scar was applied by makeup teams approximately 5,800 times throughout the franchise. Radcliffe specifically had it applied 2,000 times. The other 3,800 times were his stunt doubles and stand-ins. So there you go.
Cool.
It had been reported. This was a little. I went down a little rabbit hole with this one, Chris. You'll like this one. It has been reported that due to her commitments to Nanny McPhee, Emma Thompson was unable to appear in Deathly Hallows. However, shortly before the end of filming, she did manage to show up to shoot a couple of scenes / shots as Trelawney, which were then added into the movie. Now, due to her history with Helena Bonham Carter, it was arranged specifically that they not be on set together. And I went, what history? I don't know about this. So I did a bit of Googling. Do you know the history, Chris? Are you aware of this?
I do not. But before you say that, Dan, can I just also say that a lot of people theorise that because Luna and Ginny were best friends, Luna is a name that she would have chosen, and that's why it's Luna, because obviously Molly was already taken by that point. But carry on, Dan. Helena Bonham Carter and Emma Thompson. Go on.
Very good. I do actually like that. That's a good fan theory. So, Emma Thompson was not dating, were they married? I think they were married. I think Emma Thompson was married to Kenneth Branagh, Gilderoy Lockhart himself, in the 90s. And when he did a play with Helena Bonham Carter, they had an affair. And it split the marriage up. And then he was with Helena Bonham Carter for a handful of years before that broke up. But for a while, Emma Thompson and Helena Bonham Carter did not get on as a result. Now, since Emma Thompson has made, in quotes, made her peace with Helena Bonham Carter, but I love that was a thing and that they had to keep them both off set together. That's hilarious.
Yeah, I like to think the kids had badges: Team Emma, Team Helena. Look, Dan. In a 8 epic, series of movies casting the creme de la creme of British actors at the time, you're gonna get some drama somewhere, aren't you?
Sure, that's fair. Agreed.
Speaking of drama, Dan, just so you know, the running theory for why no one has named their child after Remus is because Teddy's full name is Edward Remus Lupin.
Excellent. Very good. Good work. I've got a couple
these are
here
all
that
real,
I'm
by
do
the way. I've
together because if I don't do these together, these are all stats. These are just some stats. So I'm going to do this as one, if that's okay. You ready?
What, to stop me interspersing with child's name stuff?
Well, I'm just saying, you let me reread out these couple together before you interrupt me with more naming information, if that's okay. Yeah. Just for speed.
No, I think I'm done.
Cool. You're not, but I appreciate you playing along with the pretense. That's nice. 210,000 coins were made for the scene inside the vault at Gringotts. Over 25,000 items of clothing were costuming were used in the Harry Potter film franchise. 5 29-ton trucks worth of polystyrene rubble was used to create the scenes of destruction throughout this movie, and of course, during the course of the movies, Daniel Radcliffe went through 160 pairs of glasses. There you go.
Great fact.
Some stats for you, Chris. Which of those is the most interesting to you?
Mate, I was I was trying to find more children. I don't know. No, the Gringotts bank fact was the most interesting, I would say.
Yeah, 210,000 coins is a lot of coins. That's fair.
Yeah, that's madness.
Also, yeah, 29-ton trucks worth of polystyrene rubble is pretty epic as well, actually, to be fair.
In terms of the glasses thing, I'm beginning to feel the same way you feel about the Wizarding World thing about that. So that's up to you. Also, Neville and Hannah Abbott didn't have any children, but they were, perfectly content.
Very good. Very good. So apparently, according to this trivia, no consideration was given to the movie's 3D presentation during filming. The filmmakers didn't find out for sure the movie would be converted until shooting was almost completed. In post-production, director David Yates consciously chose to keep the 3D conversion conservative in terms of depth because he was worried about the conversion becoming distracting and taking the audiences out of the story. Yeah, that's... Yeah, this is the only entry in the franchise not to feature an arrangement of John Williams' Hedwig's theme over the Warner Brothers logo and title at the beginning of the movie. The theme is, of course, however, used several times throughout the rest of the movie. It's just not in its usual place up front. I didn't actually notice that, but that is a big change. I don't know what played there in its place. Some sort of dramatic music, I assume, because the next thing we see is is the recap of Voldemort being all. I've got the all-powerful one now, I guess. But yeah. Upon release, this movie set the highest grossing opening weekend ever at the time. This was the record. It was 169.2 million. The record had previously been held by The Dark Knight, which had earned 158. The record was broken about 10 months later, though, by Avengers Assemble, which earned 207 million in its first 3 days. On the final day of filming, Rupert Grint gave Daniel Radcliffe and Emma Watson a trumpet each. The last sentence here is just, there was no reason behind this gift.
Well, presumably it's so that they can... Do you think if they blow on the trumpet, Rupert Grint and his ice cream van just come running?
Well, now it's funny you should mention that, because that's not in my trivia, but it is well known that on the final day of shooting, Rupert Grint, who had recently used his Harry Potter money to buy himself an ice cream truck, for those who aren't aware of this, he did that. He brought it to the set on the final day and distributed ice creams to all the cast and crew.
Yeah. That's awesome.
A bit of a pie.
That's brilliant.
Love it. That's great. Director David Yates has said that the epilogue was reshot because of the heavy makeup originally applied to the actors and actresses to give them the adult age look didn't reflect well in the dailies. So that's what we talked about earlier. The production's working title was Extra Time. I love these working titles. They're always so deliberately boring. We're shooting a movie at your location. What's the movie called? It's called Extra Time. That sounds like the most boring thing I've ever heard. Cool. Love it. It's good. Before the final book was published, Daniel Radcliffe asked J.K. Rowling whether Harry would die at the end. Apparently, after a pause, J.K. Rowling gave him a very cryptic answer and said, "You get a death scene."
Which is great. That's a great way of teasing it.
Yes, I would agree. I keep leaving little pauses between these now because I'm still expecting you to jump in with more names and dates.
Oh, well, if you insist, Dan. Lochran Scamander and Lysander Scamander are the names of Luna and Rolf Scamander's children.
Luna marries a Scamander, does she?
She does indeed, Dan.
Interesting. There you go. Learn something new every day. So not long after Alan Rickman was cast as Severus Snape, he sat down with J.K., as we've already discussed, and she told him several of the secrets about Snape that would not be otherwise revealed until the last book was released. Most significantly, he was one of the only people to know, other than Rowling, that Snape had been in love with Lily, and that when they were students at Hogwarts, and both Snape's protection of an antagonism towards Harry comes all from that. Rowling said that she shared the information with Rickman because he needed to understand. This is in quote marks. He needed to understand, I think, and he does completely understand, and did completely understand, where his bitterness towards this boy, who's living proof of Lily's preference for another man, came from. According to Rickman, the directors prior to the publication of the last book, were not privy to the information about Snape's true character either, and he had to ask them to defer to him on any issues regarding the portrayal of Snape. Whether or not they understood why, Rowling joked in an interview that Rickman would often gloat that he knew more than the other actors and actresses.
Which is fantastic.
That's good. I like all of that. I think that's right.
There's an interview between Daniel Radcliffe and J.K. Rowling, I think shortly after the final film. Definitely everything seems to be out, where they talk very affectionately. I don't think Alan Rickman had passed at the time of the interview, but they talk very affectionately about Alan teasing what he knew, and just in general, they talk very affectionately about Alan Rickman, which is, was nice to hear.
Yes. Good stuff. Alan Rickman admitted feeling awkward during the scene in which Professor Snape and McGonagall duel. He said, "Thank God for computer graphics, because holding a wand is not throwing the most threatening thing you can do. You're pointing it at Dame Maggie Smith, who you grew up worshipping from the cheap seats at the National Theatre, and she's pointing a wand at you. She can arch an eyebrow like nobody, so thank God for sheets of flame." I just enjoyed that.
Nice.
That's good.
Apparently, Victoria Weasley, Bill and Fleur's daughter, has fancies Teddy Lupin. Just so you know.
Sure. Yep.
I just thought you'd like to know.
Yeah. I think that might actually be in the book.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, because isn't the thing...
They mentioned Bill and Fleur's daughter in the book.
Yeah, because basically isn't... I think the thing that one of Harry's kids, the oldest one maybe, is that James?
Yeah.
Is like, Teddy Lupin's snogging Victoire right now. And no one cares. Everyone's just like...
Oh, okay, yeah, that might be then. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's like in the book. I don't think that's like a supplemental thing. I think that's actually in the book. So that's very good. Anyway, the filmmakers persuaded Tom Felton to convince his girlfriend, Jade Gordon. Sorry, apologies. To play Draco Malfoy's wife in the movie's epilogue. That's a nice thing. I don't know why they went to the trouble to persuade him to do that. Could have been an actress. Don't think it made a difference, but fine. Apparently, the script was originally written, like in the book, to include Draco Malfoy's bully friends, Crabbe and Goyle. In the book, Crabbe was to be killed in the climactic battle. Crabbe was meant to be killed in the climactic battle. Unfortunately, Jamie Wyatt's arrest and conviction on drug charges forced the filmmakers to change this plan. Crabbe was written out of the script, with Goyle being killed in his place. Since that character still had his performer, they were still, there. And another Slytherin character, Blaise Zabini, who'd been portrayed by Lewis Cordes since Half-Blood Prince, took Crabbe's place. Now, for those of you unfamiliar, I did a little bit of Googling, and let me tell you, the story of what that kid that played Crabbe, I've forgotten his name already, which is bad because I'd said it like 30 seconds ago, was into is insane. Like, yeah, what was his name? Jamie Whalett. He was involved in the London riots and was accused of looting and brandishing a Molotov cocktail. He was caught multiple times growing drugs in his own home that he claimed were just for personal use. There was accusations of cocaine use. Absolutely insane. It's a really weird story, and also kind of a sad story, but also deeply insane. I can't imagine what if you're a lot of the times when people turn to crime and drugs and other things, it's because other shit ain't working out. He was in these movies. Was he not? Were they not paying them fairly? Why was he selling weed? Do you know what I mean? My brain is kind of. Yeah, whatever it is, it's very tragic, but also kind of insane. So yeah, that's a thing. But the sad and strange tale that led to Blaise Zabini being part of this movie.
It's just it's just upsetting to think that he went down that path, even though, like you say, there was opportunities there. But you don't know, do you? We don't know what life was like for him. So yeah,
no, of course not. That's my point. I guess is like, it's a shame this production. You would assume this production protected these kids to a certain degree, right? Looked after them a certain amount, paid them, made sure their home lives were reasonable. I mean, admittedly, Crabbe and Goyle not like part of like the core cast. They came in and out of the movies as they were needed, but very strange that his life took that turn. You'd have felt like the production would have been able to take more of a hand in that, but I guess you can't expect them to be looking after these kids completely. Obviously, there's a certain amount of that has to be down to the parents. So I don't know. Yeah, sad but fascinating situation that led to Blaze getting an increased role in the movie. So with that in mind, Chris, it's time to do Cars Exist. And the trivia this week for Cars Exist, Chris, is that cars just barely exist. There is, and I swear this is true, one shot in the entire movie where cars can be seen, and because it is just a general shot of a large building, they are so small in it, none of them can be identified.
Which shot is that then?
Now, I knew you were going to ask that, and I really wanted to try and find out. I don't know. I'm looking at this shot now, and it's apparently from the movie, and it's of a big building. It looks like a museum, like a really ornate museum. It could be...
No, it's got to be something when Gringotts is being broken into, then.
Maybe? Yeah, like, you're right. When they're, like, flying away with the dragon. Like a shot of London as they fly over London. Yeah, that's probably what it is. But yeah, there's a couple of cars visible in the bottom left corner of this frame that I have, but that's it. Apparently, that's the only point in the movie cars appear. So yeah, cars exist, but not really. Obviously, the other bit of trivia, I suppose, relating to cars in this movie is they were going to bring back the Ford Anglia for this movie and have it be part of the Battle of Hogwarts, but chose not to last minute because they were worried it'd be too silly. I would have enjoyed that, personally.
Yeah, I think that would have been fun.
Mm-hmm. And now, Chris, an extra bonus little segment called Who Wants to Know This and Why? So I'm going to read you a piece of trivia that was in the IMDb trivia, and I'm going to read it word for word, and then I'm going to ask you the question, who wants to know this and why? Because for this information to be available, some weirdo asked someone in an interview, right? Emma Watson and Rupert Grint have stated in several separate interviews that filming their much-awaited on-screen kiss was an awkward experience, due to both Emma and Rupert stating they'd always felt like a brother and sister. It took 6 takes to complete. The kiss between Harry and Ginny took around 10. Ron and Lavender, approximately 15 takes. And Harry and Cho took 30 takes by comparison. Now, there's a part of me that goes, well, that's interesting-ish. I wonder why the Harry and Cho one took so long. Did the boom keep getting in shot? What was that maybe the director wasn't happy with the shot? I'm not sure. But I ask you this, Chris. Who wanted to know this and why?
The thing for me is, if it was only one couple, you'd go, they might have mentioned that in an interview as a tidbit. Oh yeah, it was really awkward, and it took us, I think, 6 takes? But the fact that you've got stats for, like, all the kisses is what makes it, like, weird.
Yeah. I don't know if we'll do this segment ever again, because quite frankly it's an unsatisfying segment because it doesn't have a conclusion, because we will never know who wanted to know this and why. But someone wanted to know this.
Yeah. That's crazy.
So, we're there.
Just to confirm, I'm watching the dragon thing, and it doesn't seem to. I'd love to know where the shot is. We'll work it out. Maybe
I'll tell you what we'll do. I'll have a look. I'll see if I can locate that and whichever shot was in my head of a dead small boy that I've maybe imagined. And I'll see if I can locate those between now and the next podcast. And we'll start the the Fantastic Beasts podcast. We'll very quickly tag those answers.
Yeah.
I'll see if I can figure out where this shot is from.
Just to say, you are correct. The Teddy Victoria thing does happen in the epilogue in the book, because Lily notes that she hopes they get married so that Teddy will officially become a Weasley.
Right. Yeah, and Harry says like he's round at our house basically every night having dinner anyway. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, sure.
He's already kind of part of the family. Yes, that's right. That's in the book. Yes, for sure. Cool.
Oh, wait, hold on, Dan. Hold on.
Oh.
Give me a second.
All right.
Hold on. Let me just see. Yeah.
I'm getting further away from the mic every time I say what. Go on. Oh.
I think it's more likely, based on this, that the ornate building is King's Cross, is the train station.
What, from the outside?
It's an establishing shot of the train station. There's cars in the bottom left corner, and then it's the beginning of the 19 years later montage.
Oh, you know why I don't know this? Is because they don't use the actual King's Cross, do they?
I don't know what the building. Yeah, I don't know.
For the movies, they use St. Pancras Station. Yes, I've just googled it.
Yeah, it says that it says that in the trivia on Amazon Prime. Actually,
there you go.
At the end of the film, Harry takes his son to the Express. An exterior shot of St. Pancras Station is used.
Yes.
As St. Pancras is more photogenic building than King's Cross. There you go. We've answered one of them now. Then there you go.
Beautiful, fantastic. It is. So there you go.
It's the outside of St. Pancras Station, or as it is in the film, King's Cross. There we go.
And it does genuinely appear to be the only shot with a car in it. So there you go.
Yeah, because the only other one it would be as the dragon was flying away, and I've checked that scene. So yeah,
cool. Ranking. Sorry everyone, but it's the bottom, because the problem is I think there were more positives from the last movie than this one. I think so for those who don't know, I put 7 Part 1 as my least favorite of these movies in the last podcast, and for me, at least that had some stuff in the forest that I reasonably well liked, and I thought, even though the movie didn't really have like a goal or a point, it kind of felt meandering because it's the first half of a story, I still feel like it had a pretty straightforward emotional thrust for like Ron that made sense. They were on a quest. There was something happening that was like really easily trackable. And like I said, that section in the woods, I did think had a lot of tension to it. And there's that montage when Ron's changing the channel and stuff. There's a bunch of stuff around that I absolutely hate, as we talked about last week. I think Dobby's death is deeply unearned and cheap, and emotionally manipulative and all that stuff. All the complaints from last week are still valid, but I think the problems in this movie are way more egregious. I think Harry pulling Voldemort over the cliff and them fighting, and just, oh my god, just the thousands of things we've complained about in the last 2-3 hours of our lives. Just absolutely every single one of them. Even though there's the same number of complaints, I think each and every one of them is probably more egregious than the complaints of the previous movie. So it's rock bottom for me. 8, right at the bottom. Awful movie.
It's so difficult because doing these so close together, I find it, because it's again, I don't really have an excuse for it. My personal, if we're doing favourite, it's above Half-Blood Prince for me personally. But I do wrestle like you with whether it's it's close to Part 1, but I wrestle slightly because I'm so broken by these movies, man. Especially watching them so close together. Yeah. I'm so like, well, there's more loud noises in this one. Does that mean I'd rather watch this one again? But I completely agree with everything you've just said about the flaws being more egregious in this one. But then, there's some good action beats, I guess, but there's some action beats in the other one, and the other one.
But we did say specifically the action beats in this had zero tension to them.
Yeah, no, completely. But again, it's just at a point where I'm like, all right, give me loud noises. There is more. But
this needed to be more than loud noises. This is the end of the story. I think that's a bigger crime. I think for better or worse, if the previous movie's goal was to set up Harry basically on his way to get the last Horcrux. The last Horcruxes, I suppose. So we have our big explosion-y one. It achieved that. I don't like how it got there, but that is where it gets us. It gets us to the point where Voldemort's got the Elder Wand and Harry's on his way to getting the last Horcruxes, right? That's what the movie does. And it does a bunch of like tone world building. The world is miserable now because Voldemort's in charge. It doesn't do it very well, I don't think, but it does it. If the goal of this movie is to wrap up the quote-unquote plots of this series, Voldemort dies is pretty much as far as that goes. The rest of it is just noise. And that is, again, for me, I couldn't possibly imagine it. I can't imagine a movie being worse. This franchise is really bad.
I think you're right. I reserve my right to change my mind as you are with your top, but I think you're right. I would go Half-Blood Prince bottom, and then this, and then part 1.
Yeah.
And then for me, I think it was Goblet,
Yep.
Philosophers, Chambers, Azkaban, Order.
Yes. And so I've got part 2 as my worst, part 1 as my second worst, then Goblet. Then I've got Half-Blood Prince, which is like, because of the movies, because 7 and 8 was so egregious, like, I love that that's pushed Half-Blood Prince, a movie we really moaned about, like, up to the middle, basically.
Yeah, Half-Blood Prince now takes over Chamber as being our biggest discrepancy.
Yes, it does. Yeah, because you've got it last, and I've got it 1, 2, 3, 4, fourth from the bottom up. Like, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth in total. So yeah, then I've got Half-Blood Prince. Then I've got Philosophers. Then I've got Azkaban. Then I've got Phoenix. Then I've got Chamber. I am really on the cusp. Like, in the next episode, I really do think there's a chance I might change my top 2 round. I'm every week I look at that and I feel stronger that I need to do that.
Here's a question that I often ask myself when ranking these that may lead to you saying yay or nay. Mm-hmm. If I was to say to you now, we've just watched all 8 Harry Potter movies. I know we're about to go into Fantastic Beasts, but if I was to say to you now, you need to leave this room and watch one of them again right now, which one are you going to watch again?
See, the problem with that question, and the reason that's tricky, and I think that's a good way to do it, the reason it's tricky, though, is Chamber is the longest.
Well, that's a factor, then.
Because I think the honest answer is I probably would really enjoy just sitting down and watching Chamber again just for Kenneth Branagh, but I'd be tempted to go to Order because it's the opposite end of the spectrum. It's shorter and also quite a lot of fun.
Yeah, you did love Branagh.
Oh man, I can't get enough of it. Honestly, give me a Gilderoy Lockhart spin-off movie series where he's just bumbling around. Oh, I watch every minute of it. I'd lap it right up. Wouldn't even need to be good. I don't care. I just want to see him playing Gilderoy more.
Chamber is long enough ago as well. Like, in the sense of, like, as a comparison to where they go, that would be an interesting one. But
yeah, it's very close. I think both those movies are really like they are the top 2 for me easily. I don't think it's even close because we talked about some of the Azkaban is a nice happy third for me. It does clear 1 and everything after that, like every 6, 4, 7, and 8. But like I think it's 2 and 5. I flip a coin. Like, I feel like right now I'm still leaning 2 because I really enjoy it. The length is a factor. That does make me think about Phoenix. And what's funny is, like, obviously Phoenix has the advantage of being one of my favorite of the books too. So it's kind of funny that that's where we've ended up. But yeah, at the moment I'm sticking with 5 and 2. But I will say I will have figured it out before we get to the end of these. Before we get to the horse that picks the president or whatever it's called, the final.
Yeah, and
Fantastic Beasts movie.
I can't wait. It feels like a good. Well, we've got a little time off recording wise. We've got about a week or so in between anyway. Mm-hmm. But it feels also like a bit of a palate cleanser going into Fantastic Beasts. So I'm excited to do that. We've rabbited on again, Dan. Where can the people find us?
You can get us all the usual places. One of which is youtube.com/nothingbutstaticuk, where you can like and subscribe and do all that jazz and put your comments and thoughts in the comments of the video. If you have disagree with what we said, You love these movies. You don't feel like the Dobby thing was emotional manipulation, as a lot of people don't. I know I'm going to get hate for saying that. I think it was, though. I think it was cheap, and I don't think it works. But obviously, I'm in the minority because everyone cites that as being the most emotional moment of the whole franchise. But yeah, they tricked you. They tricked you good, and you lapped it up, you bloody idiots. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, if you disagree with me, sorry, let me rephrase that. Because you obviously disagree with me, because almost all of you will, feel free to put your hate in the comments of the YouTube video, or you can send it to me via email, mail@nothingbutstatic.co.uk. We do see those emails and read them, even if we don't always reply. You can get us on Twitter. I'm at Dan Doolan. Chris is at C Billingham with 2 M's. And you can listen to us review Fantastic Beasts. Where are the beasts? Obviously in the suitcase. Don't open the suitcase in a public place. That's a silly idea. What the hell are you doing? That's the name of the movie. It's the full title. We're doing that now. You can hear that right now on the Patreon for as little as $1 a month. Yeah, enjoy that. It will be good to do that, I think, because as Chris pointed out, it'd be a bit of a palate cleanser because it's not bogged down by all this nonsense. Like, you know, it's a bit removed from that both in time, and its story is simpler, and it doesn't have there's not going to be any pushes glasses up nose moments when we review those. So I think that will help make the reviews a little more straightforward. Also, you know, tell a friend, review this podcast on a platform that you listen to it on. That always helps. Or, you know, you could just keep listening. We like that too. That's also good. Or if you, as we said last week, if you hate listening, maybe stop. That's not healthy. We can just disagree.
Yeah, that's fine.
No need to be angry. No need to be angry with. And if you do continue to hate listen, then we win because that's your listens. AdSense, baby.
Still got those
AdSense.
Those sweet reviews. We're gonna make 0.00002 pence on that. So
yep.
Yeah, boy.
We've earned pennies on your hatred. Feed us.
If 1 million people took your approach, we'd make £2.50 each. So
carry on.
Who's laughing now?
My bank account. How
what do
empty it is.
What do we pay for all the bandwidth and server space? A lot more. Oh well.
Yeah. So with all that said, I think that's everything. And if it isn't, yeah. I've lost the will to live, so I don't care. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed these. I know these have been a bit mad. They've been a bit chaotic. They've been lots of like mixed emotions, confused feelings. I am worried that these have been very impenetrable for people who don't already know the books, because I'm worried we haven't always explained what we're referring to. We've assumed knowledge, like these films. Apologies if we have done that. It's you know, it's not intentional.
But Dan,
we're just in that position.
Dan, we've been worried about uproar before. And listen, if we know anything, if we've learned anything when we've been worried before about negativity coming back at us, we've learnt this very simple lesson that should give you some comfort, Dan. And that lesson is nobody's listening.
Yep.
So don't worry about it.
Yeah, that is absolutely true. Yeah, that remains true. You're not wrong. Yeah, so thanks everyone for the couple of you that are. We really appreciate it. Feel free to, like I said, give feedback as we've already discussed. And otherwise, we will see you next time. Chris,
we'll see you next
take
week.
us home.
I've been Chris Billingham.
I've been Dan Doolan.
And this review from the Wizarding World has been rewound. Good. You keeping it succinct this week? That's fine. Raspberry's fine. I've got to eat, man.
Yeah. Look, it sucks. You know it sucks. We know it sucks. Wizarding World is a dumb thing. There you go. We did it. We did the thing.
Bye.
Bye.
Just to clarify as well, those that are listening, we love you, and we don't mind that nobody's listening because you are, and we love you for it. So thank you, and we'll see you next week.
3 hours and 10 minutes, I think we're at. So God bless you.
Yeah. We love you. Bye.
Bye.